Yes, younger son, definitely. Young boys. I do like fucking college boys.
On a warrant, regardless of the circumstances, and I'd appreciate it if you would leave.
Right, my tight little assholes. Oh.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Nightcap for January 7th, 2022. What's up, Lumazuma? How you doing, buddy? Prophet in the house. Thank you, Prophet, for the congratulations on hitting over 600 subs. We did it. They thought we couldn't do it. We'll probably lose all of them by tomorrow. Probably get us right back down to 430 or so. But yeah, been an eventful kind of week or so. Big Paul Lumazuma says, entertain me now. Big Paul in the house says, oh shit, we're getting swatted tonight. Yes, we're gonna look at some of this Tim Pool SWAT business that happened. What was it, last night, right? Pretty sure it happened last night. Nobody really knows why, what happened, who did it. Swatting, just as a general thing, we might joke around, meme it up tonight, but swatting ain't no good, kids. Swatting is bad. It's dangerous. It's a shitty thing to do. You're gonna get somebody killed. Promise is exactly, Paul. To celebrate 600, I have called the local sheriff's office and they will be kicking down Sean's door within the hour. They probably would. They'll get me too. Inshallah. Inshallah, Sydney. Inshallah, Sydney. Shit. I gotta clip that. I gotta clip out our reaction to Prophet's super chat on You Are Here, because that was some of the funniest shit I've seen in a long time. So yeah. So I guess there's been a little bit more information, and then I think we're gonna watch a Tim Pool video from a few hours ago where he kind of goes into some of these things, that maybe some of the possibilities, some of the things he thinks might be going on. Tim Pool is a little paranoid, but he probably has some sort of right to be paranoid to a certain degree. He's everybody's, favorite milquetoast fence sitter. People get real squirrely about shit like that. It's like movies, music, and political opinions. People take very fucking seriously. So, so this is the call. We got actually the audio from the call. Look at this guy. It's an outdoorsman right there. So there's audio of the call that Tim Pool got. So we're going to check out the audio. Then we'll watch Tim's video. At some point, we're going to watch some stuff from yesterday, from the January 6th stuff. I think Trump did an interview on OAN. We'll probably check that out. Tucker Carlson versus Ted Cruz. TYT's reaction to all the shenanigans of the day. And then we'll go from there. We'll just see how we go. See how it flows. Let's see what this fellow's up to. This is the call, the MSP call.
Can you advise if that's a local number to call?
Rescue 1, what was your line?
Can you see if that was a local number that called, or if you can get a location on the call?
Yeah, we're working on that now. She's trying to pull back up.
All right. I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be a swatting call. They're shooting a political film inside the residence here. But I do want to check the welfare of the neighboring address there just to make sure.
All right, stand by. I got the number. Stand by. I'll call.
So that was the call. They got a SWAT call. They said there was a shooter in the house. I think 2 people dead. The shooter was going to kill themselves. Hey, what's up to Rami? He says, hey. Lumazuma says, show me how clean your gutters are. Don't understand the reference, Luma. So Tim Pool, he said, the cops knew we were being swatted and decided to enter my property under exigent circumstances anyway. I'm calling bullshit. Listening back to that, it doesn't really seem like that is totally the case. They just seem like it could be. It sounds like that's probably what it is. It is kind of funny they refer to what they're doing is that they're saying they're shooting a political film in there, guys. Trami says, what surprises me is how easy it seems to get swatted. Well, it is when you're very high profile, or get somewhat swatted, rather. Yeah, well, if you're high profile enough, I mean, you're a target. No matter what your like political persuasion or whatever. Lots of people do. Lots of video gamers. We'll check out some stuff. Other people getting swatted, because this is something that happens actually pretty regularly. Not so much anymore. Like a few years ago, very hot time to get swatted a few years ago, but I think they made it a felony. I think I might be. I'm right there. I think they might have made it a felony. Luma Zuma says, I got swatted for leafy gutters. Or the people, your neighbors, not happy? I could see that. Neighbors can suck like that. They really can. So let's see. Let's see what Tim said. I don't know if we'll watch this whole thing, but it's an update on Timcast IRL getting swatted. Everyone is okay. We got lucky. We will catch who did this. So let's see. Let's see what it is. All right. Big time. Big time Tim Pool. See what he's got to say for himself.
Email. Seattle cops made up sightings in radio transmissions of armed Proud Boys to scare autonomous Chop Zone protesters listening in, but sparked even worse riots. That's the big story. That apparently there were several officers, and during the Capitol Hill occupation, when the far left took over this area of the city, the police falsely called in armed Proud Boys gearing up for an attack or something to that effect. This resulted in many of the protesters who had guns getting armed, and then ultimately what ended up happening, these individuals opened fire, unleashing around 300 rounds into an SUV, killing a teenager because they thought the Proud Boys were going to attack them. I want to talk about this news, but I kind of have no choice but to address what happened last night when we got swatted live.
Yeah, because I think he's trying to draw a parallel between this story and the types of tactics police will use and getting swatted himself. I think that's, and if you listen to the MSP call that we just listened to, and if you think about his comments on it, he's like, they knew we were getting swatted and they came in my house anyways. I'm calling bullshit. So it seems like his hackles are up. Brissinger says, whatever. Mr. Susan says, what evio?
On Timcast IRL, and I've put out different messaging, tweets, really trying to give you guys the full context of what we know so far. And because putting out a social media post one at a time, not everybody sees it. I put out a video on Instagram. I'll break down everything we've learned so far.
Yeah, this is good content. Like as bad as it is for this happening and how dangerous it is and shit, and however it sucks. I mean, they've put out like 4 videos, I think, about this today. I mean, I guess if it's going to happen to you, you might as well make some money off of it. You might as well monetize it.
And then I will, get into this, maybe get into the story about the police in Seattle. Now, I don't like talking about drama and what goes on, here. I like
it's such a because he's like, yeah, then maybe we'll keep talking about the story I brought up, but I was just overcome, and now I need to discuss what happened. Like I said, he's definitely trying to draw an inference with the audience. Which I don't know. I listened to that call. It just kind of seems like, yeah, it probably is a swatted, but we still have to, we still have to call. We still have to go in and look.
To make sure that the content I produce has something to do with your world, with
Trami says, almost as profitable as old Jack. And Brissinger corrections. Comes in with a correction. I think you mean Alpha Jack. That's right. Apex level, baby. I mean, if Tim Pool covered the Jack Murphy thing, holy shit. I don't think he will, though. As weird as it is, they have been friends for a couple years. It's probably best that he does it. It's almost respectable. However you feel about fucking Jack Murphy, It's respectable to a certain degree, I suppose. You can't just turn your back on your pervy friends, and you'd have no friends at all.
Bigger picture and how it affects you. We talk about policing, we talk about Joe Biden, we talk about the Republican Party, Ted Cruz, things like that. And a lot of people want us to talk about drama and internal politics, internal workings. I don't think that's relevant to you guys. I don't think that matters too much. But considering what happened last night and the questions surrounding it and the disparate messaging, I want to kind of bring it all together and address it here. And the reason why I do so with this story, I'll be honest, when I pulled this story up, I wanted to do a segment on the Seattle police and this hoax they implemented, which I believe did result in people dying, or at least in one teenager dying. And I'm like, you know what, man, this is very similar. This is like a cop version of swatting. They call in that Proud Boys are armed, and then what happens? The far left overreacts and opens fire, and that's the fear of staging these hoaxes.
Yeah, so it reminded him of his own circumstances. Trauma says that'd make you an Oswald. That's what we should call it from now. We should call it the Patton or the Oswald. Oh, dude, your friend threw you under the bus? He's got Oswalded, bro. He's got Oswalded hard.
So let me tell you what happened. Last night around 8:51 p.m., we do the Timcast IRL show from, we start at 8, we end at 10, and then we record a members-only segment after the fact. At 8:51, the door to the studio, which is to my back right, opens up, and I see two cops. One cop walks in, walks past the camera. Luke was talking about unrest following pandemics, which we never got back into, which would have been important. And the cop walks around the studio with the flashlight and walks out.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing about it is the cops did not address them. I think one of them tried to beckon Tim over, but they didn't address them. They just walked around the room and left the room.
He didn't check the other rooms or the bathroom or anything. I don't think these cops wanted to be here. And I was just like, as soon as it happened, I was like, the cops just walked in. Like, what happened? And Brandon Tatum was on the show, and he's a commentator and a former police officer, said, y'all just get swatted. And we did. Swatting is when someone calls the police and says something extreme happened, so the cops are forced to show up with a ton of people. Here's what people don't know. A lot of people who are watching the show just thought it was a couple cops, because when I walked out of the room, I see two cops with flashlights, and I'm like, there are two cops there. I don't know what's going on. And so a lot, that's what I'm saying. Like, the disparate messaging has been kind of an issue, and I want to wrap it all together. There was probably, I don't know, man. We have footage.
1,000 cops.
There may have been a total of 8 cops. I believe there were 3 different jurisdictions involved in the swatting that came to the house. There were about 8 vehicles, and yeah. So I'll give you the gist of the story. And
I wonder, like, I don't know if that's like a normal reaction for swatting. Like, if you have like a bunch of, I've seen videos of like just rando gamer guys where they come in full force. They don't hold anything back until they bust into a room. It's full SWAT gear, shotguns out, fucking crazy shit. Luma Zuma says, ever drink Bailey's from a shoe? I know that reference.
We did put up the vlog over at youtube.com/castcastle. So that's what happens in the studio. The cops walk in, they walk out, and then I'm like, what just happened? Lydia, who's the producer of the show, says,
fire.
We just got swatted. I said, how do you know? How do you know? And she's like, I've got them people texting me. And I'm like, okay. And I got up and I went and talked to the cop. I didn't want to talk to the cops. I didn't know what they were doing in my home. We do not allow anyone enter the house without permission, and that includes police officers. And I'm really pissed off about this, and this is what I really want to address. It's a tough issue, but so then I go back in, sit down on the show. Brandon mentions, I don't think this is serious if there's only 2 cops, and I'm like, that's a really good point. If the cops really thought that something bad had happened, why would there just be 2 regular like officers in uniform just walking around flashlights?
Yeah.
And so I went down. I saw, I think at this point, 4 cops, maybe more, maybe 5. I was like, they just started coming down because they were searching the whole house. And then I was just like, with respect to what you guys are doing here, I would appreciate it if you guys leave. I don't agree to a search or anything like that. So what had happened was someone called in at 8:20 and said that a man named Nicholas Bell had killed 2 people and was going to harm themselves. The police responded and got here within 7 minutes. Wow. I thought it was much longer than that. At 8:27, the police were in our driveway. we're really lucky. And I want to drive this point home. Our chief technical officer, Andy, had walked out of our green room, which leads straight to that driveway. And there was an SUV with lights on at the bottom of the driveway. Andy was just like, I don't know what this is all about. So he just turns left, starts walking away. He was going to our the garage where we have the skate park. He was going to skate while we do the show. And then he decided to like walk over and he walked back and take a look at what was going on. And that's when we have on the security camera footage, the cops are basically like, put your hands in the air, tell him to put his hands up. And he does. And then we have Brett, who hosts the Pop Culture Crisis show and is also a filmer. He walks out and he's holding this big gimbal. Now, the next thing that happens is, they put their hands up and they begin speaking with, this is a state trooper in an SUV, talking over, it might have been an LRAD device, a long-range acoustic device, because they said it didn't sound like a megaphone or anything. It sounded clear. I'm like, may have been an LRAD.
Sounded like the voice of God coming down from the heavens, speaking to us.
Or of some sort. If you've never experienced a long-range acoustic device, it's pretty crazy. It's like a loudspeaker, but it sounds like they're standing in front of you, and they could be hundreds of feet away. This moment was crucial. I see a lot of people posting that it was just a couple of cops. It was no big deal. It actually was a big deal.
This is something that's about Tim Pool as of late, is that he's become very preoccupied with what other people say happens on his show or how he's represented, which is fine. It's just, but he went so long not really giving a shit. Like, however you feel about Tim Pool, he is kind of like an all business guy, right? He doesn't really get into drama very often until kind of recently, doing like response videos to like RA the Rugged Man. That he had his freak out there, and then RA went on TYT and besmirched Tim Pool's good name. So he did like an hour with his sister to say like, no, we did suffer from racially motivated violence when we lived in Chicago. So it's just kind of weird that he feels nowadays just like he wants to set the record straight. I don't know really why he cares or why he thinks anybody's going to give him a fair shake if they don't like Tim Pool already. Like, if he does this, it's not going to stop a lot of those people from saying whatever they're going to say. Which is just kind of weird. Like, it's just the gross part of the internet, Like, you don't like somebody because of their political opinions or what they say or think. So he's like, so it's okay that he got swatted because I don't like you. It's okay if something bad happens to you because I don't like the way you think about things. It's kind of just gross, honestly. Lumazuma says he is opposite of Harden.
We saw in the driveway, I think, 8 vehicles. But we also now find out later that you actually had a bunch of cops and different agencies or different jurisdictions driving down the road, doing perimeter sweeps around the area and going to other people's homes. If Andy was not outside, inadvertently intercepting the state patrol vehicle, the cops would have come in guns ablazing. However, I think we're lucky in this capacity in that this is a place of business, not just some home. If this was just like my house and I was just some guy who like put a studio in his backyard or garage thing or basement or attic or something like that, then the cops would have probably kicked the door in while we were doing the show and told everyone to get on the ground and cuffed us and all that. However, because Andy was outside and because Brett walked outside, this state trooper, he sees these 2 guys already. The call makes no sense. The call was that there was one guy here, that he had harmed 2 people, he had killed 2 people, and that he was going to harm himself. And they see these 2 guys in the parking lot, and we have a big parking lot, and we have a bunch of cars.
Yeah, it's definitely dangerous, Tim. Prophet says, if we still have enough redundant opulence that people like Tim Pool, RA the Rugged Man, and Jack Murphy can make a living with their grift, then we haven't declined hard enough yet. Side note, would love to see the Rugged Man split a stack of 4 cords of wood. Let's put that name to the test. And then Luma says, melt balls, dude. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Luma. You're like a real cunty character around here, huh?
This is an office. So then Allison, COO, and my girlfriend comes out, and they all start talking, and there are like 8 or so officers in the parking lot. And I'm learning about this after the fact, mind you, because this was at 8:27. All right. So now it's like 8:31 or so, whatever the timestamp is. And they're all talking in the parking lot. And we're doing the show. We have no idea this is going on. So Allison tells them, this is not true. None of this is happening. And you cannot enter the property without a warrant. And they said, we understand, but we have exigent circumstances. I don't accept that. Look, I mentioned this on the show, and I understand this. The cops end up walking in the house. They go along with Andy, our CTO, and they start going through all the rooms, and they open up the studio door. And Andy was telling them, like, guys, they're live right now on camera. Like like he's showing them the live stream. Like, you can't go in. The cops are like, we have to do a wellness check.
Well, they knew that. They knew that they were on live, as we saw in that call. So they knew that they were filming something. The sheriff or whoever described it as a political film, which is kind of funny. Wayne Hales says, Tim has a girlfriend. Yeah, finally. Remember a couple years ago? He was just like, I can't connect with anybody, dude. And I think it's somebody he's known for a long time too, if I'm not mistaken. Not the cat girl. That was his last girlfriend, is the one that like tried to go after him for stealing her cat. And she was on some early Tim Pool content, I think. And then he gave her and this other guy a bunch of money to go start a news network that ended up not, you know what I'm saying? Lumazuma says, I'll up my game when your channel of this cancer. I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Check, a perimeter check or whatever, a property suite. And so they open the door, and that's when they walk in. That's when we see them. This is tough. It's a rock and a hard place. I respect that someone put in a phone call that people here were hurt. And these officers rushed down here not knowing what to expect and believing a real possibility they could die. And that's the reality. And that's a scary thought. I can't imagine what it would be like if I was, I got a phone call. Actually, no, you know what? I've experienced this. I have absolutely experienced this. I'll keep the details, private, but me and some friends got a call from our friends, one of our friends' girlfriends. We had an apartment. They were at an apartment, and a frantic, panicked call that someone was trying to break in, and they were scared. And we're like, what do we do? What do we expect? And we had to rush there full speed, speeding, being like, they called the police. Hopefully we get there in time. And by the time we showed up, the cops were there. But I couldn't necessarily imagine. I mean, it's different. I don't know. It's probably different. You've got a loved one whose life is being threatened. You might be a bit more worried about their safety. And we rushed in. Fortunately, in that circumstance, everything was okay. But something weird did happen. And so in this instance, you've got all of these cops being told there's an armed man who's killed people. And they have to go in and try and stop this person, and they don't know what to expect. And so when the state trooper pulled into the driveway, they were waiting for backup. And we are lucky. This is a place of work, and so we've got so many different employees by happenstance. And
well, it's a big compound. It's not like a house. It's not just like a house on a hill or something. It's like a giant 10,000 square foot like compound with a skate park, skate ramps, and chicken coops, and all sorts of crazy shit. Like, I don't know. Like, if you were just a cop and you were just to go there, like, you wouldn't really, and you weren't already aware of it. For Tim, this could be an opportunity to be like, yo, I do this stuff for a living. You might want to get in touch with them to be like touch bases, be like, yeah, people try to SWAT and do crazy shit. Maybe he has since this, but I don't know. Prophet says, did he experience this on the south side of Chicago?
And he's standing right there. And then they're like, they see this dude, and they're probably thinking, this is the guy. This could be the guy. So they're like, put your hands up. And he's like, he puts his hands up. And then they're like, walk forward slowly. And they start driving up. Brett comes out. This is what's scary because he's holding a gimbal. He's holding a large camera. They can't see. It's dark out. And so we're lucky. This could have been really, really bad. Let me tell you, if they weren't outside and backup arrived and they did a perimeter around the house and they came in with their guns drawn, during the show, we tell people, feel free to get up and use the bathroom. We are even live, like no joke. And you guys probably don't even notice. Seamless, because we're pros. I'm being somewhat facetious, but no, we do a good job. So literally, Lydia handles the cameras, and we have a soundproofed, for the most part, bathroom in the studio, and you've probably never noticed it. when someone gets up,
People will be taking hot dumps in the studio. All right, let's skip ahead. This is
be like, I'm going to slowly put. No, you're going to throw it. And you're going to drop it. That can cause damage, not just to our we're not just putting our lives in. They're not just putting our lives in danger by doing these calls, but they're also just damaging the business and causing us very serious problems. So I don't know, man. I hate to do like a 20th video on this, but during the show,
no, you don't. Come on, man. It's like, it's like if it happened to you, you might as well to a certain extent. Although there is this kind of notion of feeding the trolls. Like, that's kind of like, you don't need to talk about it so much publicly. You kind of handle your business behind the scenes because you don't want to encourage this kind of behavior in the future. By kind of letting people know that you will give it tons and tons of attention, because that, at the end of the day, is what the swatting troll would want. That's what they want. That's what they want to happen. Prophet says, I wonder why Jack Murphy has done what Jack Murphy has done in the bathroom. Shit. No pun intended.
I see the cops. I get out and once I realize it's a swatting, I go talk to them because, initially we're wondering, like, when the cops walk in, we have no idea why they're here. They could be executing a search warrant. Who knows? I have no idea. And I'm not going to talk to them, not without a lawyer present. So I'm pissed off about this. And then when they said it was swatting, I went out and I was trying to be very careful with my words because you got to be very careful. That's why I said to them, and you can see it in the vlog, I respect you guys coming here to try to save lives, but I would appreciate it if you would leave. There's a concern that if I said something like, I appreciate you guys being here, or I'm thank you for what you're doing, would be considered to be some kind of acknowledgement or approval of them entering my home without permission. I understand.
I mean, is he going to get into this? Like, because there is exigent circumstances, which it was a new term to me. Like, I'm not trying to say that I knew better or whatever, but it was explained in pretty explicit detail that is why they came in the house. Like, even if there's like a low chance of it, like I said, it's a giant place. Who knows? Maybe they're all weird culty people. Tarami says, don't give him ideas for his chatterbait profit. Let me see here. Loomis says, this man is the first human to poop an egg out of his butt. Good one. Go drink some water, Luma.
Understand exigent circumstances, but I have a real problem with this. That they just entered my place of business, where people, admittedly, some people live here, but it's not that kind of place. There's only a couple people who do, because we have like on-site camera for the vlog, so we were able to film a lot of this. But to be able to come in here without a warrant, citing exigent circumstances, I'm calling BS, and I am very, very unhappy with this. And there have been people who respond and be like, a warrant, Tim? Are you nuts? The cops have to go in. Like, no way, dude. Statist BS. I choose my risks.
Loomis says, water is for wimps. Well, you're not wrong. You're right. But it's good to have a good balance, Got to have the feminine and the masculine living inside you at both times. There are two wolves inside of you, Luma. One is a bottle of water. One is a bottle of booze. It's all about balance.
I choose that. My people choose that. My friends, my family, not the police. I respect that they were like, we have to go in and potentially save lives. And in the event someone does try to come in and cause us problems, I certainly understand and respect that they would try to save my life. And the last thing I want is for there to be like a boy who cried wolf scenario. And then the cops, don't want to come in and say, it's probably fake. We're not going to go in. And then we get really hurt. But I have a problem with all of this. I really do. I'm sorry, man. With respect to those who would risk their lives, it is not their call. When 3 people are outside, and we have someone recorded the police scanner audio where they say, this seems to be a swatting. They're filming a political show inside. And, I want to do a wellness check anyway. Right then, I say, get off my property.
Which he probably has a case right there. I mean, if it's kind of explained, it's quiet, it's understood that no, this is we do a show. We're big on the old interwebs. Like, but so I mean, he probably has a case there because everything was calm, and maybe we'll go check out. We'll watch a little bit of the footage of the police coming in and stuff because like it was very calm. Like they weren't ripping stuff up or rushing around. It was very like low key. Loomis says, "Sorry, I found it." Prof says, "Loom, I won't ban you for insulting Sean, but I will ban you for being critically unfunny. Smarten up."
You have multiple people saying this is not true, and they would still come in without a warrant. That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
I don't totally disagree with this. I mean, like if somebody is out there to talk to them and it's very kind of clear that nothing is going on, the people that work for your company say, no, this is not what it appears to be. You know, that kind of is an overstepping of bounds, and it is kind of bullshit.
I don't care who you are. You can't just come on my property. The problem I have with this is we got lucky that someone was in the parking lot, that Andy had walked out there and Brett had walked out there, intercepting the officers with their hands in the air, walking slowly towards them. They got the brunt of the police fear, and it was minor. It was okay. The cops quickly figured out. But if they didn't, if they weren't out there and the backup shows up and there's like 8 cops outside, there's state troopers, there's a sheriff's department, there was I don't exactly know. I think there was another city police department that had showed up as well.
Slow night in West Virginia, or is it actually no? They're in Maryland. The compound's in Maryland. Travis says, I think they had to so they could say they had. Imagine the shit show if something had been going on and they just left. I totally see that point. I think that's totally fair. Like I said, it's a big building. Like you might not know what the hell is going on. People could be lying. Who knows? How deep does it go? How deep does it go?
I can respect and understand that they're rushing to the scene to try and prevent something tragic or stop someone who's crazy. I get it. But at a certain point, this idea of exigent circumstances, your rights have been voided because someone called in a lie. If they showed up and they didn't see anybody, and so they have backup and they
because it would be at night. It's like big dark building. The only thing that's really going on is upstairs in the studio. Like even when you see the footage of the cops walking around the house, like it's all dark in there. It's all almost the whole house. All the lights are off, all that kind of shit, because people don't really live there. It's like a working space.
Pull out their weapons and they go up and they open the door. They wouldn't have had to break it in because, well, let's just say they did. Let's just say sometimes we do have everything secured depending on who's working at the time. So let's say they would have busted our door in. Absolutely. They would have opened the door. They would have kicked it in, busted it open. Then they'd go through the property armed. And it's a big, I got to tell you, this place is kind of a labyrinth. People get lost here. I'm not kidding. It's if you've never been in a building before, you might not know where things are. And it's not like an office building that's very straightforward where it's like door goes straight, then you go left and right. There's a hallway. No, it's a big house, but we use it as an office. I don't like the idea that they get a phone call that there's one guy who harmed 2 people and they encounter 2 guys in the parking lot telling them this is not true. They then encounter a woman who says, you cannot come in. This is not true. And they say, we're going to do it anyway. At a certain point, exigent circumstances should not apply. And what? The cops can then just be like, somebody called in and said a bad thing happened, and now we get to enter your house and sweep the perimeter. Well,
that's true. That's true. And then they can, if they find any kind of illegal paraphernalia, say on the off chance they had like drugs, somebody was smoking weed, blowing coke, that Luke Rudowski character, blowing meth, you would go to jail for it. You might have a case when you go to court, but you're still going to probably get arrested on the spot. So, that's true.
When I came out and said no, they were like, well, we have to check. No, you don't. No, you don't, man. I'm not okay with this. So look, I didn't get into the full details. I mentioned the Seattle cops making up this Proud Boy thing. Maybe I'll just do
Luma says 2 people on this are flat earthers. That would be exciting.
Bigger segment on this, so I can actually get into all of that. But I'm starting to read this, story. And then I was just like, I
gotta spill the beans. All right. Well, I think if that's all he talks about with the story. Yeah. Okay. So that's the end of that. Prophet says if he thinks this is a violation of his rights, wait until he finds out about the civil forfeiture. Wait until they seize all your super chats, Doughboy. Yeah, civil asset forfeiture. I think he's talked about that before. Actually, that's not cool. Nobody likes civil asset forfeiture. Actually, it's like one of the only good things John Oliver ever did was like putting putting that on people's radar, because a lot of people knew about civil asset forfeiture because it's kind of an underreported thing. Luma says smoke weed every day. Prophet says laugh out loud. Luma is a sphere cuck confirmed. All right. Well, there's stuff like that. This video bookends with some footage. There was another one. I don't know. Maybe I don't think I have it though, where they actually had like footage of them going through the house.
I'm not okay with you guys being in here without a warrant, regardless of the circumstances. And I'd appreciate it if you would leave. You asked them for a warrant.
I did ask them for a warrant. The reason they can come in is for this. Warrant,
they said we're going in anyway.
Oh my God. Okay, now we got to go to the end.
Did somebody swat you?
Yep, somebody swatted us.
Did they really?
Yep, somebody swatted us. So that's
How do you know?
what that
How do you
was.
know?
I have somebody texting me.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so Tim's gonna go
Wow.
take care of
So,
business.
yeah, just a police officer
Just stroll
entered
it in.
here, looked around because it looks like someone swatted this live broadcast here.
Glad they didn't come in here bussing, man.
I'm glad. Yeah, man.
I mean, that's something that's extremely dangerous.
We got a call saying that 2 people were shot and another was threatening suicide. Is this sealed off?
Yeah, it's an attic.
That's completely sealed or no?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Or can you lift that?
I think they're still doing work on it. Like they put that down. I'm not sure what they're doing. But it's like they're
What's that?
Oh, Lumen coming back with a bar. Bite me, D Prophet. You are a hose of shit. That's the Spice King you're talking to, Luma. That's a fucking Spice King. Better watch it, buddy.
Roof is sealed.
Okay. All right.
There's steps, but it goes to like a roof slash wall.
Okay.
And then there's a locked door in there.
See, there is a locked door in here.
Yeah.
Do you have a key for that door?
I don't know.
Here you go. Excuse me. Yep. Thank you. Yep. Yep.
Uh-oh. American flag. Big red flag.
Did he go downstairs?
So I just want to say, respect you guys. I'm not okay with you guys being in here without a warrant, regardless of the circumstances. And I'd appreciate it if you would leave.
Okay. We checked the entire house.
We just checked the upstairs. Did we get the whole? You were with us the whole time, sir. The whole.
They did not give a shit. They're like, yeah, that's cool, Tim. That's kind of fucked up. Honestly, because obviously at this point in the process, they know nothing's going on.
Did we go through the whole ground floor?
Yeah. So
okay.
Okay.
I respect the attempt at keeping everybody.
He's being cucked right now. Tim Pool is being cucked. He learned from the best.
Safe and everything, but
yeah, and that's look. That is the only reason we were doing what we're doing. We wanted to make sure everybody here was okay, and we have to answer any other questions you have.
No, just would appreciate it if you guys would.
Okay. All right. Look, I appreciate your time and your proper respect.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry for what they're doing.
I appreciate you talking to me with the proper respect. What a nice guy.
You're good, man.
Have a good one, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep. All good.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Sorry for the bother.
Thank you for.
Yeah, see people safe, right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely a swatting incident.
Yeah, it's a swatting
Okay, yeah,
incident.
they did, but they were trying to make.
That was okay. Yeah, I had to let him know that she was.
That's absolutely
Yeah, yeah,
swatting
that's fine.
attempt. They were hoping it would go bad.
Yeah.
It was swatting, but it
Definitely.
didn't.
Pretty much somebody
I would
trying to
put
kill
10.
us.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I was nervous.
You asked them for a warrant.
I did ask him for a warrant. The reason they could
Yeah,
come
we
in
asked
is
for
for
a warrant.
this.
They said we're going in anyway.
Exigent circumstance.
They said they're going in anyway. They don't have a
It's because
warrant.
of exigent circumstance. It's a real thing. They were real cool. It's just a slide thing.
Regardless, a crime. Good job.
Thank you.
I just walked out of the room. The cops walked in. They walked around with flashlights. We've been swatted. I am extremely unhappy with this because
Trump says taxpayer bill $10,000. Probably if they had like a whole suite of vehicles going around the perimeter, going to neighbors' houses, the whole 9 yards, probably in that ballpark. Definitely pulling some overtime. Definitely pulling some overtime pay.
I can't necessarily be mad at the officers. They were very polite, but I do not like cops coming into my house when we have mats all over the place. They come back with a warrant.
Yeah.
And I don't know who let them in or why.
Yeah, what happened?
I understand they're here because we got swatted. A report was made that 2 people had been shot and killed, and that the gunman was threatening to hurt themselves. They didn't send a SWAT team. It was just a couple of officers. I don't want to drag them or be mean to them because they were polite.
Tim is wrong. There was basically a SWAT team there. But this is in the moment. His blood was up. Tensions were high.
But I'm not happy with the idea that they're walking into our studio while we are live. They're walking around. Cop immediately, I walked out of the room. He immediately came up and said, I'm really, really sorry about this. We're not trying to, screw with you or ruin what you're doing. Here's what happened.
We're not trying to mess up your political films.
Killed and the person was going to be killing themselves. We have to check it out and make sure everything's okay. We're going to be doing a sweep once we figure it out. And I'm just like, come back with a warrant.
You called me because the cops out here was like, oh. They're like,
Well, I actually was like, let me just go up there. And they were like, no, you got to stay here. I was like, okay. I think I could answer because I know sometimes you don't. And I was like,
did they tell you what they thought?
and I was like, shoot, because I just knew.
That's Tim's girlfriend. She's probably a nice lady. She looks like a mom. She's got a lot of mom energy, mom vibes.
You might not answer. So I was like, and they stopped me. They're like, we didn't ask you to go out there. I was like, all right, no problem.
They walked up to me, they were like, we got a call that someone was what?
I know, I felt bad because I was setting up to your place. They're like, who's there? Someone lives there. And I was like,
Tim's brother's like, if anybody's going to hurt Tim, it's going to be me.
he's there. Like, he lives with us.
I looked at Andy, I go, who the hell here is married?
Well, so I was walking. I was walking out to go skate in the barn, and like these lights are out by the beginning of the driveway, and I was just like, what the hell is that? And like I thought maybe like somebody stopped to read a text message before driving up, and I started like walking a little towards it to see who it was, and I hear like, put your hands up, sir.
Nobody wants to hear that.
I was like, I think it's the cops. You got to put your hands up. He's like, what?
Wow.
I had like a 360 camera in my hand. I'm like, he's totally gonna think this is a gun.
I was like, because I know exactly, not to have him come in without anything. I was like, if I can't stop it, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, there was like 10 cops there, and
You're supposed to get that samurai sword and that single loader and go to war. This is the castle. This is not some public building. Tim Pool's girlfriend.
and you were like, you can't come in without a warrant, and they were just like, yeah, well, we're gonna go in anyway.
They had the reason and exigent circumstance. I've got their, information. I took pictures of their license plates and everything, so I've got their info.
We actually talked to the local police departments and explained to them
We
what
did,
swatting
yeah.
is.
I tried to
So
explain
it's
it.
not going to work.
So that's what I was curious about, if they had ever contacted the local police departments. And that's probably what clued that person that was on the call into knowing that this is probably not true. But like, that doesn't mean you don't still have to go. Like, you still kind of have to go and I guess look, at least. I don't know. It's a sticky situation because, like, they could try to take them to court, I guess, about this because it was kind of resolved before they ever had to go into the building. Like, they got the information they needed with that call, with them kind of having the prior knowledge that this is probably not on the level. It's probably not true. But, law enforcement's got a lot of leeway with stuff like that. All they have to do is cite exigent circumstances. Well, how do we know they weren't lying? How do we know that these aren't the people that were doing the killing?
I explained that to him. That's why they came all full. That's why they were. I told him come with like shotguns. Other people that's happened to, and it goes bad real fast. Yeah, and a lot of people who are more popular have to talk to their local.
This is one of those guys that's
so it'll never work.
Like.
Yeah, the one guy from Washington County, like, because it was his call, he was the one, like, got to talk to you, where you're going in. So he was, but I understand, you get a call like that, you have to take that seriously. They have to check. Yeah. And so, because he tried to he's like, well, when does the show end? We're like 11. He's like, we can't wait that long.
Like, exigent circumstances. Right. We can enter your property and search the premises.
Right, which is what I said.
I told.
So they're not going to show it because that guy, Brandon Tatum, it's kind of like a MAGA dude. Not a huge fan of Brandon Tatum, but I mean, not like just his content. I don't know, personally, who knows? He could be a very nice dude. But he explains to them the situation, but he's pro-cop. While I would say they're maybe not necessarily anti-cop at Timcast, they're definitely definitely suspicious of them. Tarami says, personally, I think the cops were totally reasonable here, but I live in Cuckland, so my perspective is different on law enforcement, I imagine. No, I think the cops were about as reasonable as you could expect in a situation like this. Honestly, I don't really know what else Tim wants them to do, I don't know.
Them, with respect, officers, I would like you to leave unless you have a warrant. And they said, we get it. We swept the house, we're leaving. But I don't trust it.
Prophet says, this kind of my hands are tied police work is how my wife ended up in jail in Ohio for 3 days for stopping someone from kidnapping our infant. Tim is right. They had no right. No, I tend to agree. I don't like, it's just in that circumstance, especially because they talk to people and they explain the situation. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully now they will, they'll know better, I guess. I don't know, or whatever you want to call it. So here's a video of somebody that actually gets swatted during a live stream that somebody was doing. So somebody that was trolling Zoom classes. This was the thing during the pandemic, during the lockdown, everybody doing remote learning, remote working, and some Zoom classes got got raided basically by people, got trolled, and sometimes that goes wrong. So we'll see how it goes. See what happens.
Some kind of a hacker or something.
You came back for a visit, did ya?
Oh my God, she's praying.
I think this guy's whole channel is trolling Zoom classes.
And time.
You get an RV and drive around the country and enjoy the.
And we have somebody new on.
Yes. Hello, John. John, can you hear us?
Oh, this isn't good.
John, are you in the right room?
Did that ever happen? What in the world?
John?
This is a joke.
This is interesting.
Does anybody know what's going on?
Oh,
no idea.
It looks real to me.
And it looks like somebody that is somewhere where they don't belong, as in John.
Well, we'll be talking about this for a while.
How did he get in our Zoom?
I have no idea.
Well, did you hear what he said? He says, I think we're being swatted. So he's some kind of a hacker or something.
Should I keep it on the screen or should we
Are you guys
Should I keep it on the screen or should we do the respectful thing and turn it off? So I did not realize this was just a person reacting to this, but the footage is there anyways.
seeing on the bottom of your screen where it says chat, you see a what?
Wait a minute.
Can you see that?
Why would you get it off the screen? This is the most interesting thing that's ever happened in your book club, guys. I mean, I understand you guys want to talk about hell of a book really bad, but come on.
Hit on it though,
No,
right?
I did. Started to say I am.
Oh, he was writing to us.
Just witnessed a potential crime that's been stopped. I don't know. Well, I'm wondering if these guys see us, the police.
I can hear you.
They
Yes.
turned off the. They shut it down.
Well, there we go. We've just witnessed something that I've never seen before, other than on TV.
But it's weird how he got it.
What would this guy gain by getting on our group? I don't understand that. Would you have any idea?
I've experienced before.
Oh my gosh. Are these just people getting swatted or what? So this is what happens when I don't preview videos. Loomis says, do a movie review, please. I haven't really been watching much lately. I only have one tooth left in my mouth. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. If that's true, I'm sorry. That sucks. I'm probably about 15 years behind you.
I haven't been able to, talk to them again. I know that they like our group. We always clean up. We're always, not even breaking even then. So it will be
All
hard.
right, this is a fucking dead end, this video right here. I don't like it. Let's just see if we can find swatted on Twitch live stream. I'm just kind of curious what it's like. What does it look like? What does it look like when people actually get swatted? Got to have something for reference so we can see what the beanie was able to avoid.
Uh-oh, this isn't good.
So somebody Trauma says it seemed like a video of swatting that's being inserted into Zoom calls rather than someone on a Zoom call being swatted. I think you're right. Because this is the video, right? This is the actual video.
They're clearing rooms. What in the world? I think we're getting swatted.
I remember this, actually. I remember when this happened. I used to watch Counter-Strike videos.
Put your hands up! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
Don't you fucking move, you hear me, boy? If you get in the room and you see what's going on, I mean, I don't know. Would somebody just like do something bad? Would they shoot somebody and then just go right back to Counter-Strike? I guess it's possible.
David, we got one in custody. Wi-Fi? Hello? Yes, hello. Yes, hello?
All right.
Yeah. Hello? I'm coming out. Hello? Yes. What? Hands up.
Oh, he's getting pwned.
All right. /DC.
Okay.
Дамы и господа, мы ждем.
Those Russian cops don't fuck around, dude. Travis says overpowering video game nerds must be such an adrenaline rush. Really showed them.
Hello? What happened?
Keep your hands right there. Somebody come me straight. Right there.
Get on the fucking ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
I'm playing Second Life, dude.
Put your hands behind your fucking back. Move your hand. Move your hand. Stay
Handcuffs?
Down, stay down, man. You're cool. You're cool. All right. All right. Anybody else in here? My sister. My dad. Okay.
Oh shit!
Prophet says, you'll know you're getting swatted because you'll hear the super mutant suicider first. You'll hear his nuke mind beeping. You need to take a jet, a med-X, and a psycho. Unleash hell with your legendary combat shotgun to stop the FBI raid. Little Fallout action. Brissinger says, these guys are the ones who created January 6th. It was a setup for stupids. Yeah, not interested in getting involved with these shitheads for no reason.
Guys, I don't know what's going on. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Is somebody swapping? Oh my god.
See the difference in approach? She's out there like, what the fuck is going on? Asking them questions. That last dude, they were just like, get on the fucking ground. I'm going to put you in handcuffs right fucking now.
Let's go before. Clear. Sorry about that.
Sorry about it.
Oh, if you can close the door because we can't.
My bad.
Yes, I know. I only have this.
Okay.
I was just on the phone getting this delivered. So somebody that's in here right now fucking got my apartment number somehow and had you come to my door. Like, this is why you guys are here, is because of this. Say hi. Say hi to Dallas PD. He's like, no.
He's there.
Look at the difference in response. That's fucking wild. Gonna have a nice ass, guys. Gotta start doing squats.
One raptor dead.
Going mini? Where's the bomb?
I'm holding Minity. Bomb's down by T-Red.
Gabs is a ramp player and Lex plays
He's
what?
Locker. He's Locker. Locker and up secret. Locker.
Well, I don't know, guys. What do you think's going on in here? Looks like one of these gamer bros.
Fuck, Jordan.
This guy was Locker.
Damn.
These gamer bros. Jordan, they need you, buddy. Terrorists win. Terrorists win.
You guys just want to bounce?
Good friends. You guys just want to bounce?
That's unfortunate, isn't it, guys? Luckily, okay, so someone called the police or something.
Now back to the action.
Got a good understanding with the police station now, so it's unfortunate people want to do that.
Somebody playing Pokemon Go got swatted too in a park?
Looking at us? The cops are looking at us.
Let's find out. We are having electronics. Us? Okay. All right. You want me to just keep going this way? Yeah.
Get out of this
Good.
park, you goddamn Pokemon lovers.
Get up his back. All right. Well, we'll just leave it there. You leave it there, you might have a problem. Hey, Vay.
Yeah, if I leave it here, the trainers
All right,
are going to
well-
get me.
All right. Maybe we are going to have guns pointed at us. That's not good. Oh, boy. Really hope I don't get shot here.
I have to go. I have to go. Holy fuck.
I like the music, the nice Minecraft music to really just like ease us into the SWAT.
What the fuck? We're seriously being swatted. We're being swatted. Oh, I'm shaking. I'm shaking. Tease.
Trami says, I was having such a good day, then you brought up Pokemon.
Because these guys, okay, a couple of days ago, they got our address and they were posting our address in chat. And
And then they just came in the chat again and said that they were swatting us. So the police are outside. They have Ian fucking up against the wall. And I'm just sitting here with my arms in the air, shaking out of my mind. And our live stream just kept going down and literally just came back up. Who does this? Who the fuck does this? Do you guys know how much trouble you'll get in for this?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Serious.
Who the fuck like swats Minecraft streamers? It's the most genteel game known to man. Brissinger says, "Mindfuck music, laugh my ass off."
You guys, this will fucking ruin your lives.
Look, she's even trying to look out. She's still, even now, trying to look out for them. The mind of a Minecraft player.
I'm not messing with anybody. You guys are so...
Guess we're in trouble. Especially you're in chat telling them that you're doing it. What is this from, like fucking 2008? 2010?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, sir. Coming. I'm on my way.
Police department, police department.
Maverick comes in with some info from the Timcast SWAT. So Alex Bell was the name given by the swatter. How very mysterious. A.G. Bell, the inventor of the telephone. Oh, Trami, congratulate you. Good catch, Maverick. It's true. Good catch, man.
Going left, so I'm going got right. Oh yeah, what do you know? We're playing video games. Kitchen's clear. You go to swatted, right? Yeah. Fucking you play video games and then the person you're playing gets all pissed off and they call in, they figure out where you live.
We live in such a weird world. Really, seriously. All right.
What I'm working with, and I just do live streams and
I do speed runs.
my chat.
Who the fuck swats a speedrunner? What is going on out there? What is going on with these kids?
People talk to, and just, it's everything just set up, and you know what I mean. So, I mean, I'm broadcasting to like 1,200 people, and that's what that is. Just there, those guys being assholes, and what they just did was donated $1.
Brissinger says all of the boomer generation going crazy in real time, folks. Maverick says thank you, and yep.
And his Twitch name was F the Police.
Who's that?
I have no idea exactly who that was, but that was
Where's that show up where they can see
that was not cool. So,
Well, there you have it. That's what it looks like when you get swatted. Luckily, none of those, because I've seen some. There are some stories, man. I can't show them on YouTube, but there is some shit, dude. There is some wild stories of the past few years, like people getting killed over Call of Duty because of shit like this. Fucking insane. All right, so next up, we're gonna check out. What should we check out? Should we check out the Trump interview on OAN? See if we get fucking our stream pulled down. So I guess Trump did an interview on what is it? I don't even know what OAN stands for. It's like Only American Network or something like that. Not really sure, to be honest with you. I'm not a viewer, so I don't know. But we'll check it out anyways. We'll check it out. Trami says D-Live stream. Yeah, well, that would be something for D-Live. We're gonna have a fun one on Monday night. I think Prophet's gonna be riding with me. Gonna go back into the world of the antinatalists. He's been doing some stuff. We're gonna talk about it. Brissinger says, "Oh no." Always a good choice. All right, well, let's see.
President Trump says America is in the early stages of communism under Joe Biden. He sat down with One America's Christina Bobb for this exclusive interview.
And this came out yesterday. So they put this out on January 6th. Counter program.
President Trump, we are a year out from the current administration, practically a year from January 6th. What's your assessment or what's your overall review of the current administration?
Well, I think like everybody else's, it's a disaster. Our country has never felt like this. It's never been like this. We're disrespected all over the world. We don't have, it's almost as though we have no power left. You look at what's going on in Russia with Ukraine, you look at China.
Travis says there's been developments. I don't think so. Not really. No, they're just going to go after the boomers that went in there and a few spicy characters, and the feds are probably going to be left alone. One America News Network. Thank you, Maverick.
I know with Taiwan, you look at so many, everything. Iran is making threats. They're all making threats. They weren't threatening us when I was there. Nobody was going to threaten us. And I think a lot had to do with the Afghan withdrawal, the way we withdrew from Afghanistan. It was so, and getting out was a good thing, not a bad thing, but you had to keep Bagram, and you had to take your soldiers and your troops out last, not first, and get all of our hostages, because now they're hostages out. And you don't leave $85 billion worth of equipment.Maybe you leave 10 cents worth of equipment. You don't even leave that.
Do you think
I said every nut, every bolt, every screw, I want everything out.
She's just trying to hold on. I like the cuts to her face while she's listening.
Not every bolt, every screw, I want everything out.
Do you think that was a turning point for the American people? How do you think their perception changed?
I think Afghanistan was the most embarrassing moment, demeaning moment in the history of our country. I think we've never had a moment like it. Look, obviously the borders are a disaster. Inflation's eating our lunch. It's eating our people away, the economy, but inflation in particular is just a disaster. What's going on in so many ways, we were energy independent. Our military is being disrespected. We've never had a time like this, but I think the most important moment was that very short period where we really gave up. It was almost like we surrendered to people without guns.
Yeah.
You know, here we have these jets, we have everything else. We literally surrendered to the Taliban. It's not even believable. And I had an
Singer says, like being hit over the head with a falling coconut. That's what her face looks like. Yeah, a little bit.
understanding with them. They were not going to be touching us. They were not going after us. We had a very good understanding. There was no reason for this. And I was getting them out. I'm the one that got them down to 2,500 troops.
Yeah.
Less. It's. I think it was the turning point, and I think it was a bad turning point for Joe Biden too.
Well, and you're talking about how the press really had accused you of potentially getting us into wars with North Korea, with our enemies, and accusing you of creating unsafe environments and all of that. And
Doing not cool shit, man. Not cool shit. What does he get from doing this stuff? You know, I know he's definitely an egomaniac, a little bit of a narcissist. So maybe it's just the idea of being on camera. You know, maybe that's just it for him. Maybe that's just what he likes. He just likes being in front of a camera, and he will talk to anybody about anything. Maverick says he just sent me a clip. All right, cool.
just in the first
send it
year,
on Twitter?
we're seeing that that's actually true for the Biden administration, but it
You
was
send
never
it.
true for your administration.
In fact, I was the first president in many decades
Twitter.
that didn't get us into a war. They were all saying, he's a warrior, he's a war guy, he's somebody that loves wars. I don't. But people respected us, and they
Right.
weren't going to mess around. You know, when you're weak, you end up in wars. And we were respected. So 1 year ago, we were respected like probably never before. China respected us. They weren't buying oil from Iran. Now they're buying massive amounts of oil from Iran, making Iran rich. China wasn't doing that. Iran would have had to deal with us within 1 week after the election if the election wasn't rigged.
Right.
We would have had to deal with Iran. We would have had to deal with everything was going beautifully. And then the election got rigged and stolen from the American people. And by the way, that's the reason they went in massive numbers. They don't cover the numbers of people. They always show the Capitol with a very small, just a tiny percentage of the people that were there. They never show helicopter pictures of that incredible crowd because it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. I've never had a crowd.
I know he's gotten a lot of shit for that, saying like, at least I saw earlier, because I haven't watched this yet, that because he brings up like the size of the crowd relative to the amount of people that went into the Capitol, and people were trying to roast him for it. Brissinger says Trump points. Trami says the attention is all he needs. I imagine. I think so. I think that's it's motivated a little bit by that. Brissinger says Elon Musk and Babylon Bee. You know, I have not watched that. I have not watched that interview. Maverick says both.
I've never seen a crowd that big.
It was massive.
It was the real number. I won't say because it'll be a headline. Oh, he exaggerated the number. The real number was over
6
that sacred
billion.
number.
Yeah.
6
You know
billion
what that number
people.
was, right?
I do.
And I don't even talk about that, and they don't talk about it. I don't go.
This is a very classic Trump move to talk about something and say like, I don't talk about that stuff. I don't even need to bring it up. But let's talk about it for 30 more seconds.
But I'll tell you, the crowd itself was the biggest crowd I've ever, and I've spoken before the biggest crowds, the biggest crowd I've ever spoken by far, by numerous times, I think. And nobody ever shows the pictures of that.
OAN's got to get like good mics. A lot of echo going on here. A lot of room ambiance. Not very professional, guys.
Show me speaking, but they never show who I'm speaking to because they don't want. That was anger over a rigged election that got that many people to go to D.C. A tiny percentage, and I mean tiny, like less than 1%, went to the Capitol. That's all it was. A tiny percentage.
Right, and it was cold that day. People were very cold and weren't
There
trying
was
to
love that day. There was so much love out there during the speech, but a tiny percentage. And they started walking to the Capitol in many cases before I even spoke.
Yep.
Okay, that was well known.
Yeah.
But they should show helicopter shots of the crowd, not taken 6 hours before, like they did with my inauguration. Where they show the inauguration hours before,
Right.
and they talk about, oh, not that many
Right.
people. Because I tell you what, it went down to the Washington Monument, and they.
Trami says, like Prophet said the other stream, just going to talk about it for 10 more minutes for 3 more weeks. Brissinger says, we should talk about what a bombshell that lady is. Whoa. Prophet says, it was love out there. There was so much love. Is he talking about Wild Honey Cherry or Pixel? That's a reference to the last nightcap we did. A very special episode. Big Paul came along. I showed him Animal Passions.
They know it. Just like they showed the empty basketball arena. And they said, not a good crowd today for Trump. But the doors opened an hour later. And
Like, this is the whole thing with this dude. It's just, this is his preoccupation. He's just like how he's represented in the media. It's just like, if you spent less time worrying about that shit, maybe you would have accomplished something.
place was packed.
Right. The obvious question is, how are the crowds for Biden?
That's the question. But no, the obvious question is, why is the press so corrupt? Why would they show a basketball arena where there's thousands of people, tens of thousands of people outside trying to get in? And why would they show? And it was a guy named Weigel from the Washington Post. Hours before, he got there very early, and hours before the gates opened, he showed an empty arena. And he said, very small, I think there was like one person sitting in the 18,000 seats, right?
Right.
An NBA arena. And he said, not many people here for President Trump today. And everybody said, oh, it's too bad. Oh, it's so bad. It's so sad. Looked like Biden.
Right.
And then they found out that, oh, wait a minute, the doors weren't open for another couple of hours. When the doors opened, the place packed. And you know who the ones that complained about it? I never saw it. The people at the arena. They said, this guy said that the arena is empty. It's packed. And
So this is a 13-minute interview, and he spent a lot of time on this subject. Maverick has a question for Prophet. He says, Prophet, I saw 2 comments on the Will Nolan video, but they were both deleted. Question mark. Brissinger says they're so pissed off at him, he literally mind fucked them for 4 years straight. And you're wondering why we're going down the rabbit hole now. Well, it is very Trumpian, and it drives them fucking insane that he will talk about this. It'll drive them crazy. Trami says, Jesus Christ, we get it. Someone made you look mildly bad. Oh, they made him look like a chump. Made him look like he wasn't as popular as he was. Which is, I guess it's definitely fair to a certain extent, because they did with Biden, just kind of like she brought up, they did the exact opposite of that, trying to make it look like there were more people at events and blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was because of COVID, but him and Kamala, not fucking bringing in giant crowds. Juan Baum says, Dank lives matter. You know it, buddy. Prof says, I remarked that if your guest wanted the protection of the teachers union, the state, and the police, he should have started a Pakistani grooming room instead of a class on Vikings. Even after multiple wordings, the post went home to Jesus. Actually, it's a fair point, The
lines went back and we couldn't take thousands of people. But why do we have such a dishonest press? That's the question. And why don't they show the real crowd that was there on January 6th, the crowd of people that was the biggest I've ever seen? Right. I haven't seen any picture. You can hardly get a picture. We're trying to find pictures. They have censored the pictures. Right. They don't want to show that crowd because that shows what it was all about. They were there over a rigged election.
And so what do you think about censorship and the First Amendment? Where does it go from here? Because a lot of people, for years.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Trump's deep thoughts about the First Amendment. It was one of his rallies, one of his speeches. It would have been during the campaign where he said he thought people that burn the American flag should go to jail for up to a year, which is something I was just like, such a ridiculous, heinous thing. It is one of the great privileges, one of the great things in our country that you can do that. In the United States, you can burn the American flag, and as long as it's yours, granted, as long as it's your American flag, it's not a big deal. That's not true everywhere. And when he says shit like that, it's because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about most of the time. In terms of just like the Constitution or your inalienable rights, he has no idea. I don't know if he even cares. It's just he knows that the crowd will eat it up. He was at a time in the country where that was kind of the populist feeling on the right, was like rah, kind of nationalistic, pro-America. So anything that was even hinted towards that, he would just go all in on it. It was just kind of gross sometimes.
There's been this game of conservatives are being censored. Oh, no, they're not. It's all in your head. You're making it up. Well, now it's very clear conservatives are being censored. We know that T-Mobile is removing Gateway Pundit from text messages in their app. So conservatives and rightfully Americans are concerned that our freedom of speech is in jeopardy. What do you think?
It's the beginning of communism, and I think it's long beyond the beginning. They are censoring, and in a very strong level, conservative voices, Republican voices, and they're almost blatant about it. It's incredible when you think what they're doing and how they're going about it. But they're censoring voices that are conservative or Republican.
Right.
I mean, I read where they censored books on Ronald Reagan and some very good people, and they were met with such force that I think they now said, we didn't mean that, it was a mistake. They do that sometimes. But no, it's a very, very serious problem. It is the beginning, it's the early stages of communism. Remember when I campaigned and I said we're going to end up being Venezuela?
Oh, you got that talking point right in there. Maverick says, I think he said he didn't trust the teachers' unions or police, but yeah, in 20 years, the UK will be majority Asian. Crazy. Oh, well, I won't see it, but I'll get the family some crons. Brissinger says, yeah, quote unquote, not true everywhere. That's the underlying anthem of the U.S. That's true. And Maverick just says the YouTube bots are a joke. It's a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. Tarami says censoring, and Brissinger answers, it means silencing. Mav, banning.
Sometime if we don't win, we'll end up being Venezuela. That's where we're headed. We're headed toward Venezuela large-scale version.
And I think a lot of Americans agree with that sentiment now. We've seen in recent polling, 49% of Americans strongly disapprove of Biden's administration, his performance, and only 20% who strongly approve.
Yeah.
that's a huge difference between those who strongly disapprove and those who strongly approve. Where do we go from here?
To win the elections, and it's getting harder to win because they're rigged. The borders are broken and the elections are rigged. Other than that, we're doing very well.
Right.
You know, the two things, I used to talk about the broken borders, but I never talked about the elections because I never thought the elections could be rigged to this extent. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of votes in certain states, determinative, meaning far more. You cover this better than anybody. And you know what you do and what OAN does is so important. And
OAN is definitely in the pocket for Trump. I gotta say, they definitely are. Prophet says, quote unquote, God Emperor Trump. Brissinger, he gives you the thank you. Rock on. Mav, Leffel, yeah, MB, haha, but yeah, feel me. You feel me, brah.
you have a much bigger audience
Isn't
than
it?
people understand.
Thank you.
But you cover it better than anybody. And we're talking about elections that are broken, rigged.
Do you think she would let him? Do you think she would just let him? If you know what I mean? I think she would. I think she would.
You've been saying this. You were saying this when
Wearing a
when
red
you were
dress.
in the White House,
Very
saying
provocative.
This election, you know, they're pushing the mail-in ballots. They're going to cheat with mail-in ballots. You were saying this long before most Americans realized it was a thing.
I said it loud and clear when I saw mail-in ballots. I said they're going to use the COVID to steal the election, to cheat, because they do cheat like nobody's ever cheated before. We ran a third world election. And things are coming out over the next couple of days, maybe even today in one case. I hear very big stories coming out today on the cheating. And numerous states are going to be turned. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's going to show that they were won by me. It's already shown.
Right.
If you look at Arizona, if you look at
Is that stuff still going on? Honestly, I don't even know. Brissinger says, I think she has. It's a resume prerequisite.
the findings in Arizona, that's over.
Right.
We won it. And I'm going to go out there next week. We're making a speech. But if you look at those findings, we won the state.
Right.
Now it's up to the attorney general to see if he's going to do something.
Do you think
He will not. He won't. Whether it's true or not, he won't. Big Paul says, red is the color of warning. How many DC poli-sci majors she made go MGTOW? She's the guy, very angular face. For some reason, she reminds me of like a Kennedy. Like she would be related to a Kennedy. Reminds me a little bit of like an attractive Maria Shriver. You know, I've never found Maria Shriver very attractive. I always thought it was weird that Arnold was with her until I got older. Then I was like, oh, because she's a Kennedy. That's why. He knew what he was doing even back in the day. Laying the groundwork, laying the track, planting some seeds.
I think this woke enough people to get involved and secure their local elections? Because elections used to be something that people just vote, just go vote, and then who cares about the rest of it? But this has proved that people need to get involved and be part of the poll watcher group.
Oh, we got a good call here. Yeah, love you long time. Big Paul says, like Jennifer Connelly's less attractive sister. It's an excellent call. That's true.
Part of the challengers. What do you think?
Barbara
in
Connolly.
Pennsylvania, they had poll watchers in Philadelphia, and the poll watchers were virtually beat up and thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch for days. And by the time they got
Brissinger asks, Arnold for president, eh? Absolutely not. No. I think he would like to. Remember that was going around? It was like years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer than that, to amend the Constitution so Arnold could run for president. It was the beginning of the end. When he won that governorship, it was like the beginning of the end. It was, as much as like maybe Obama also like ushered in the notion of the celebrity president. I mean, it starts before that. It really starts with Kennedy, the invention of television, and people being able to see presidents when they debated and stuff. But then, Ronald Reagan. But it really gets into gear in earnest with Obama. And I guess Schwarzenegger would be part of that. The celebritification of politics. More than it already was, I suppose. Bill Clinton had a big part in that too. The heart-shaped eyebrows don't help, Trami says. Brissinger, bro, he's in the business. Of course he wants to.
Had court orders, the judges took their time, and we had tremendous number of votes. But look, I was up by hundreds of thousands of votes at 10 o'clock in the evening. All of a sudden it vanished like a miracle.
700,000 in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, tremendous number. It was unbeatable.
Right.
And all of a sudden we lost a close one. No, it's a very, even the announcers were saying, wow, look at Pennsylvania. We won that by much more than we even thought we were going to win it.
You were still winning on November 4th. It took him 3 days to.
It took them 4 days to cheat.
Yeah, it did. What do you think? What does the American public need to do in order to not just feel secure, but actually secure our elections?
Well, we have to get better people than Mitch McConnell, who immediately gave up. And, Mike Pence it was sad because when you have more votes than you have voters, you could send that back to the legislatures, right? Send it back. Hey, excuse me, we have more votes than votes.
I like that whole thing with Mike Pence and like that speech on January 6th. It's like, dude, if he didn't do it in private, I don't know if going out because that's just Trump's thing. It has to be about him. It has to be about saving face to a certain degree. That's what he felt like he was doing in that moment, whether or not like the election was rigged or whatever. Because remember that, like when he called out Mike Pence, like during that speech, I remember that shit. Just like, I don't know, man. I don't think he's going to do what you want him to if you do it this way. Prophet says, I imagine there has been horrible fraud in more elections than not in this country, and I mean historically. Also, Israel has picked the president since Ronald Reagan. Wouldn't it have to go farther back than that?
You check it out. And by that time, they would have done something because, as you know, they were starting to get angry around that time. They said, wait a minute, we've been scammed.
There were protesters.
So that was disappointing with Mike. And Mitch McConnell shouldn't have accepted it. Schumer would have never accepted it. If he would have had that, he didn't want to accept the last election and there were no complaints. How about where Maxine Waters objected to Alabama last time and I won by 45 points and she was objecting to Alabama. It was a landslide and she, they fight differently and they stick together. But Mitch McConnell has been a disaster and he wanted this thing done. Our country must go forward. And the first thing Biden did is sign 17 executive orders, ruinous to our country, including borders, open the borders. The wall would have been completed in 4 weeks. It was done, except it took 2.5 years to stop because I had to win all the lawsuits. So I won the lawsuits. We built almost 500 miles of border wall. The rest was going to be completed immediately. And they took it, and they won't even give it to Texas to use the fencing material. So Texas is going to have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy the material that's sitting right there on the side.
Right. It's really disappointing. Well, sir, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's the hot interview. That's what you did with your time. That's it. Brissinger says, I'm convinced that they weren't expecting to win. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. So let's see here. Tucker Carlson kind of went at Ted Cruz, and then we're going to watch that, but then we're going to watch some of the reactions to him calling out Ted Cruz.
So we played this tape.
So, which is kind of might be more interesting than the actual interview itself or the clip itself. Prophet says, wait, hold on. And then Q, Brissinger says, and then they did it. Brissinger also says she's hot. Prophet, they didn't build a fucking mile of wall. I think they did. It's you can find pictures of it. I haven't been there myself. I have no personal confirmation. Well, it's not really like a wall. It's not really like a wall. It's like, I don't know what you'd call it. It's not exactly as advertised, I suppose. So let's see.
For you last time, we were surprised by it. We prefaced it by saying every conservative appreciates Ted Cruz because he's one of the smartest and most articulate people in the Congress, and he's conservative. But he referred publicly to what happened on January 6th as, quote, a violent terror attack. Here it is.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week and it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Senator Cruz was game enough to come on tonight. We appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use.
I like how, the Tuck here, he just lays it on thick. He's like one of the smartest people, one of the good ones, or so we thought. Brissinger says Ted Cruz is so much fun to poke fun at. He's such an easy mark, dude. Even Trump. Remember the 2016 campaign, or the run up to that, all the crazy shit Trump said on that stuff, man. Holy shit. He looks like a badger. He does. He kind of does.
Use words carelessly, and yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word, you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say.
Let me clean it up. I've said it, on in the halls of power. I've already made these statements, but let me come on to Fox News and clean it up a little bit. That's great, Ted. That's wonderful.
What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to.
Not a fucking terrorist, though. That just means you're a guy who attacked a police officer. Prophet says, good on Tucker. Fuck this border. Fuck this border jumper. Well, I don't think he's a border jumper. He came over on a raft. Him and Elian Gonzalez, his cousin.
To jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists. And that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th? Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And
see, this is the thing. This is based on political expediency. He knows that a certain segment of the country feels that way. He wants to play to that base. And it's also because all conservative dudes, especially in politics, all secretly want to be liked, but for lack of a better way to put it, the left, right? Because they hold so much cultural cachet. They're the cool ones. It's like the nerds trying to suck up to the cool kids at the cool table. It's so fucking pathetic. Brissinger says, pretty sure the beard wasn't present during the 2016 elections. No, it was not. It was not. He was babyface Ted Cruz. Now that he's part of the manosphere, he basically did what all Silicon Valley tech giants end up doing. You know what I'm saying? They they grow beards. They start wearing flannel, start taking pictures in the woods. Brissinger says, always playing to the base. Disgusting. It's what's even worse about it, though, he's not even just playing to his base. He's trying to be skeezy and branch out beyond his base. It's a little gross.
That. So why'd you do it? So Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word, for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again. That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday. And the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and
It's like this is a classic too little too fucking late, Ted. You said it in Congress, dude. You didn't just say it like in your fucking living room or on a podcast or something. You kind of made it like official record. Coming on Tucker Carlson to do little like fucking damage control doesn't fix that. Big Paul says Marjorie shows all the Fed agents inciting. Exactly. Who's Jeremy Epps? Is that the guy's name? Jeremy Epps? Who is that guy? What about the Vegas shooter? What about that guy with the car bomb? Come on now. Ease of Ted Cruz Pro. You may make him flee to Cancun again, and then nothing will get done in the Senate. Maverick says, I support the fash.
trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist. And so, look, I don't like people who assault cops, and I stand up and defend cops. And the reason I use that word is that's the word I've always used for people that violently attack cops. But in this context, I get why people were angry, because we've had a year of the corrupt corporate media and Democrats claiming anyone who objected to the election fraud. And by the way, remember what was happening during those protests?
Because that's the thing. Like, you weren't careful with your fucking words. Like, you can't come here and then if this is what you meant, I guess you should have said it then. Brissinger says, but like Congress doesn't mean shit anymore, apparently. Now Ted knows. He knows what he's doing, and he knows that he's going to get away with this too. Because going on Tucker Carlson doesn't change any of that shit. And I see your chat, Prophet. I'll keep it to the chat.
Can I just ask, hold on, you work in this? I guess I just don't believe you. And I mean that with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and your precision. And I've seen it on display. I've covered you as a reporter. I know how you speak. And you have sat there for a year and watched people use language to distort the events of that day. Intentionally. Insurrection. Coup.
Of course it
terrorism.
wasn't an insurrection. Saying it's an insurrection is a political term. It's a lie. I've repeatedly denounced it. And when
So if you say that people committed terrorist acts, but you're like going to mince words, like, well, like it's not an insurrection, but they were, but this was terroristic violence. Come on, dude. Like, and he knows what he's doing, and he's so sleazy and slimy about it. And thank God the old Tuck's here, at least taking him to task, at least a little bit, for fuck's sake.
When it comes to, look, I was focusing on what I normally say. That what you aired was a little 15-second snippet. What I normally say is violence is wrong, peaceful protest is right. If you engage in violence, you should be.
Oh, what a brave statement. Violence is wrong, peaceful protest is okay. That's the way I feel, guys, just to put it on the record. Maverick says Ted would be watching Tim Pool, watching Jack Murphy, watching his wife get railed by Matt, featuring Quad Cuck. Sorry. Oh, I fucked up the joke. I'm sorry, Maverick.
Prosecuted. If you're speaking, you have a right to speak. I say that all the time.
Well, amen, and I agree.
In that snippet.
So who's Ray Epps, by the way, since you are a
there
senator?
It is, Ray Epps.
He and this other guy are clearly...
What? Fucking based. Based Ted Cruz. Who the fuck is Ray Epps, Ted? Why haven't you been asking about it? All this shit that goes on in the country, all this bad stuff that everybody's like trying to fight against or saying is a bad thing. All the Republicans are all in a kerfuffle about inflation and all this shit. What the fuck are they doing? What the fuck does Ted do? What does he do? What does he do on a day-to-day basis? Like, what's his job? Ted, maybe if he weren't so busy like being a fucking celebritard and fucking being on podcasts and hanging out with the guys at the Daily Wire, maybe you could actually get something done.
Encouraging the crowd to commit crimes. Neither one has been arrested or charged. What is that, do you think?
So I think that is a very good question. I don't know who Ray Epps is. I've seen that video multiple times. It's disturbing. He's clearly urging the crowd to violate the law. When you see the crowd start chanting, Fed, 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 for him to appear on the FBI's most wanted list and come off, it certainly suggests he was working for the FBI. That's not conclusive, but that's the obvious implication.
Then why don't you go ask somebody, Ted? Why aren't you asking people? You don't have to do everything in an official capacity. You could be rattling some cages behind the scenes. Like, what the fuck is your purpose if it is not to find out things like this? Brissinger says, yeah, I mean, I guess when does a presidential nominee settle down? All these other senators aren't growing beards and going on Joe Rogan. Has he gone on Joe Rogan? Ted Cruz hasn't been on Joe Rogan. Come on now. He would though. He totally would.
And the Attorney General and the Department of Justice won't answer the question. Tucker, I can tell you, I joined with a number of other senators trying to get the Biden DOJ to answer the question why so many January 6 prisoners are in solitary confinement, why they're being treated so much worse than the Antifa rioters and the people who committed firebombing and a year of riots across the country. And this Biden DOJ won't go after them. But let me also make a quick point, Tucker. Remember,
what are you, some powerless fucking creature? Do you have no authority, no power? Then what the fuck good are you? God damn. Just always passing the buck. Just kick the can down the road. What the fuck what am I supposed to do? They won't do anything. Then go and fucking make a stink. You got a public profile, Ted. You got fucking podcasts. Jesus Christ. Brissinger says, okay, Blaze TV. He'd probably make it on the Blaze. If he hasn't already been on there. He might have been.
While thousands of people were standing up to defend this country on January 6th, at that exact moment, I was standing on the Senate floor objecting to the election results, demanding that we impanel an election commission to consider evidence of voter fraud. And I brought together
the classic Tucker Carlson face. This is like what he looks like when he's interviewing like a woke professor. And they're explaining why the things that they do are okay. Prophet says, what is Ted Cruz's purpose if not to help the American people? I did a quick Google, and here's the top headline. All right, Prophet, I'll read it, buddy. I don't know how much 151 you've had. Senator Cruz visits Israel and calls for us to unequivocally stand with the Jewish state. Israel not only has the right, but a responsibility to defend yourselves. Oh, I see. A purpose, a meaning. Thanks, Ted. Laugh my off, bro, and Ted going off the handle. Well, it's just...
There are 11 senators to join me in supporting getting to the bottom of that. So, of course, it would be ridiculous for me to be saying that the people standing up and protesting to follow the law were somehow terrorists. I was talking about people who commit violence against cops, and you and I both agree, if you commit violence against cops, you should go to jail.
Yeah, but you're not a terrorist. You're not. You're a guy who who assaulted a cop. Okay, so there's a legal difference, as you well know better than I do, since you were actually in the running for the Supreme Court, and there's a moral difference.
Which doesn't mean shit, by the way. You can be a Supreme Court justice and go during oral arguments for whether or not vaccine mandates and the way OSHA is going to be implemented is lawful, and you can go make crazy claims like 100,000 kids are in hospitals, many of them on ventilators. Maybe we should look at that. Holy shit. I didn't get a chance to look at or listen to a lot of it today, but there was oral arguments about the vaccine mandate stuff heard by the Supreme Court today. And Sotomayor is a fucking idiot, a fucking psychopath.
Between a guy,
Tucker, the reason I use that word is for a decade I've used that word for people that violently assault cops. I use that word all in 2020 for the Antifa and BLM.
Yeah, you can use that word if you want to say that, like when you're giving a fucking stump speech, dude. But if you're making your statement about the solemn day of January 6th and how awful it was, oh my God, maybe you should fucking parse your words better. Maybe you should parse your words better. I don't know. Garland was a Supreme Court nominee, and now he intimidates angry parents at school meetings. Yeah, they're and actually probably doesn't even know what the fuck is going on. His department is the ones that's doing it. He's kept in the dark, so when he's brought before Congress and asked questions, he doesn't know anything. It's fucking obnoxious. Truly a fallen state.
BLM terrorists that assaulted cops and firebombed police cars. But I agree, it was a mistake to use the word yesterday. because the Democrats and the corporate media have so politicized it, they're trying to paint everyone as a terrorist, and it's a lie.
Exactly.
And by the way, I've spoken out vocally against your exchange you just had. They want to paint us as Nazis. Yes,
I know, it's scary.
That is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, so maybe don't throw around the word terrorist, Ted. Brissinger says, classic boomer bros yelling at the computer screen. Hey, how dare you? How dare you?
Look, I'm the one leading the fight in the Senate against this garbage. And it's what I
Good.
have been doing, and it's what I'll continue doing.
Well, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you very much, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
No, I'm good. I'm good, Sean. I'm good, fellow Sean. How you do? So let's look at so TYT. Where is it? Okay. TYT talked about Ted Cruz, that Ted Cruz segment, because it made the rounds, and we can look at beautiful Anna Kasparian. You know what I mean? Prophet says, I didn't hear a fucking peep from this dude when Antifa was burning our cities and anarchists were setting up autonomous zones. Must have been at home waxing his beard so we can look a bit more white. Brissinger says, text us and laugh out loud. Yeah, I know. That's the whole thing. Like, you know, when people get their hackles up about January 6th, oh, the solemn day, I could give two fucks, honestly. I could really give two fucks. Those people are responsible for egging on and letting real terror, real pain, real suffering, real destruction go on with wanton rage for fucking a year. The media won't cover it. Like, honestly, nobody will talk about it, honestly, but like, real people suffered. The people that they purport to want to help suffered a great deal because of this shit. So save your crocodile tears for somebody else. I ain't buying it. So now let's see what Anna Kasparian has to say about this. I'm sure it'll be very enlightening. Sure, it'll be super interesting. And then we'll watch maybe a little bit of a TYT's coverage of the January 6th stuff that, you know, because they were all having basically ceremonies. Hamilton was saying, a song from Hamilton was played before Congress. Just the most fucking comical clown shoe bullshit. We truly live in clown world. We truly live in a fucking fallen state. Jesse Lee Peterson is right. Welcome to Nightcap.
Senator Ted Cruz is usually one of the craziest members of the Senate who is willing to do and say the most damaging things to our country. But recently, he had a comment about the January 6th riots that was actually incredibly rational, but he's getting a lot of backlash about it from right-wingers. So
yeah, he called people terrorists. Plays right into their narrative. This is why he said that shit. Because he gets to score brownie points with fucking people like Anna Kasparian.
Without further ado, let's hear what he had to say.
Republican senators. What are they busy doing? Well, they're busy repeating the talking points that Merrick Garland has written for them. Here's one example.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week. And it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
And also hang out and take selfies and usher people in and say, hey, just stay within the velvet ropes. Brissinger says, that's a crackhead.
Now, let's be honest. Everyone who's conservative appreciates Ted Cruz. You may not like him, but you got to appreciate him. He's legitimately smart. He's one of the more articulate people to serve in the Congress, maybe the most articulate. He doesn't use a single word by accident. Every word Ted Cruz uses is used intentionally. He's a lawyer. He described January 6th as a violent terrorist attack. What the hell's going on here? You're making us think maybe the Republican Party is as worthless as we suspected it was. That can't be true. Reassure us, please, Ted Cruz.
So, you
you showed the clip that was completely accurate, Anna. Come on now. Oh, super thanks. Love this video? Let us know. Use super thanks below. They're worse than fucking NPR and PBS. They're constantly trying to raise money, constantly doing drives, constantly sending out emails. Like, how distracting is that shit, dude? Take a day off. I mean, we're talking about January 6th here. Talking about Insurrection Day. Have some respect, Anna.
Played the Tucker Carlson commentary in addition to what Ted Cruz said to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. Ted Cruz says something rational and the right wing goes after him pretty aggressively. And Tucker Carlson is not the only one. John, I know you talked about this a little bit with me on the damage report this morning, but now that the story has kind of settled in your mind, what do you think this means for any Republican lawmaker who might want to speak out against anything that Trump may like, but is actually pretty damaging to our country and could erode our democratic process?
Yeah, I think that from the very beginning.
Yeah, listen to the socialist LARPers, the champagne socialists. Let them tell us about democracy and how important it is. Bruce Singer says, super thanks. Super thanks.
Of Trump's run in 2016, we have had a variety of times where it seemed like people speculated that maybe some sort of alternative could coalesce, some sort of anti-Trump in 2016 alternative. Ted Cruz himself attempted to be that actually during that primary.
Did he? Is that what happened? Is that what happened, my brother? What the fuck background is this, you fucking dweeb? Get out of here.
As his presidency went on and he was an absolute disaster, you had a few Republicans try to band together and maybe talk about potentially doing some sort of primary run or a third-party challenge or something like that. And it's just never really worked because the issue with it is that, well, first of all, there's the structural impediments to third parties, but there's just not a base for it. There are just not enough regular conservatives out there that want anything other than Trump-branded conservatism. Trump-branded now, or potentially even more deranged in the future. And we had maybe, I think, a last gasp of an effort for that alternative.
Bruce Singer wants to know, what are those pictures? It's probably his comic book. Or some dumb shit he's working on.
After he lost the election, it seemed like, well, maybe this is an opening. I mean, after all, he was rejected by the country. He tried to overturn the election and it didn't work. But the issue was that the base stayed with him. And because the base stayed with him, many of the politicians.
So what if the base stayed with him? Was he, rejected by the country? He is the second most highest voted for president ever in a presidential election.
Regardless of whatever they might think internally about any of this, even the ones that initially were critical of him, they can't continue it because they can't continue as a politician with that position. There's just not a constituency for it. Unless they convert to being Democrats, they can't get elected as Republicans. And so Ted Cruz, he might be willing to make a comment. I doubt it's going to be sustained. I doubt we're seeing the beginning of a durable change in how he approaches Donald Trump individually or the Republicans anti-Democrat.
They're just so fucking obsessed. If Donald Trump runs in 2024, it'll be the best thing that ever happens to these people, and they know it. Nobody watches this shit anymore. Because their commentary, just like on regular life, on what's going on, is just not that interesting. It's just the same shit. Over and over and over and over again. It's the same points. Brissinger says, damn, that was an important point. They may as well be Dems, though. At some point, right, the uniparty theory, I don't think that's completely off base, honestly. Look how Mitch McConnell acts. Because they're all political actors. It's all about political expediency. It has nothing to do with you or me or what people want or vote for or whatever. It's all about the consolidation of their own fucking power. Keeping themselves in those seats. That's all they care about. That's their life goal, their life mission.
Democratic, trajectory. And so I just, until Trump is literally gone from the party, like he, the filet-o fish finally catch up to him and he's just definitely not going to run anymore. I don't see it happening. And honestly, even once Trump is gone, the alternative is probably going to be worse. And I don't think it's going to look like Ted Cruz. I think it's going to be a slightly more savvy Trump-style whack job.
Well, it's probably going to be Ron DeSantis. If Trump has the wherewithal, is actually smart enough to just step out of this 2024 election, it'll probably be Ron DeSantis, and he's much more palatable because he's like, people say, well, he's kind of Trumpian. I don't totally agree with that, but he knows how to talk to the media. He's optically very strong. He can speak in complete sentences, which is always a bonus when you're running for president. You know, the current or the past two presidents notwithstanding.
I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, especially that last part.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I don't think that Trump is necessarily the important element to this equation, right? Like for a long time he was, but I do think that there are alternatives who can create a cult-like following similar to what we've seen with Trump. And the reason why I say that,
You know, I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but I think Anna Kasparian in current year kind of smoking. She's kind of smoking, guys. Not gonna lie. She could get it, as they say.
that is because, you know, Trump's base, while there are people within that base who I think are probably too far gone to persuade to come see the light, there are people who I don't think are necessarily like inherently terrible people, but they've been radicalized, they've been propagandized by this very well-funded right-wing media bubble. And it's, look, people can get radicalized online so easily. I mean, we've seen it happen with QAnon, we've seen it happen in so many different ways. And as long as that right-wing media infrastructure exists, I have no doubt.
Yeah, all like 50 people that believed in QAnon on January 6th. Big Paul says way hotter than that OAN chick. I agree. Honestly, totally agree. I mean, Anna, even before she had her work done, she's had quite a bit, was pretty cute. But this is one of those, I guess, good plastic surgery stories. That's all I'm saying. Prissinger says blonde eyes, blue eyes. No, she's my dark Armenian princess.
That whoever serves as an alternative for Donald Trump will have the same type of like cult-like following. They have to have some level of charisma, I guess, some characteristics that speak to these people. But I think really the heart of the problem, and not to sound too much like Cenk, because Cenk harps on the media more than anyone else, right? But it is true.
Of course, of course. Prophet says, I'd turn her into a breeder stump for sure. No arms or legs, but a good, healthy uterus. She'd bring you something bountiful. Jesus, dude.
The media plays a huge role in what people believe, how they become propagandized, and what exacerbates that is the algorithms online. You know, we keep getting served up more and more of the content that is likely to keep us engaged and is likely to reinforce our preconceived notions. And that is a huge problem. And
that you're talking about yourself, Anna. You're talking about yourself. The people that wholeheartedly embrace their particular brand of crazy are just as bad as any QAnon fucking weirdo. The amount of conspiracy drivel, the amount of fucking wild shit that they say on TYT when Cenk has got his ire up, when he's freaking out, when he's like sweating and rambling, he's just as bad as anybody else, right? If that's what you want to say. What's the difference between TYT and InfoWars, really, at the end of the day? At least InfoWars is entertaining. These people are just condescending pricks. Brissinger says, like, liver harvesting is definitely in.
So Ted Cruz, I mean, this was, if you would have asked me, hey, what would you expect to happen after Ted Cruz says something rational? No doubt I would have predicted this. Of course they're gonna come after him. And Tucker Carlson isn't the only one. Election Wizard on Twitter writes,
well, I guess Tucker Carlson could have like taken it out of context and just shrieked about it for fucking 2 weeks without ever doing any further research or looking into something. I mean, I guess he could have done that. But no, he showed you the full context of the clip and then over 2 nights, and had Ted Cruz on to talk to him personally and called him out. That's more than Anna has ever done in her entire life in just 20 minutes.
Bannon began his show this evening by rolling the tape of Ted Cruz's January 6th terrorist comments. My problem is with the gutless Republican Party, they will not take a stand. This is why we've won more elections than we've lost, and we've lost the country in the process, says Bannon.
Well, but you lost the country because you lost the election. That's the whole thing that we're talking about right here.
What a fucking moron. He doesn't even understand what the dude's saying. This fucking autistic online literalism that goes on with people. Oh. The point is that Republicans have won a lot of elections, have been in power many times, and have failed to do anything because they always kowtow to the dipshits on the other side. Because the dipshits on the other side are considered cool, and conservatives are considered dorks, and it's basically just high school politics. It's fucking ridiculous. Brissinger says, but you know, her voice is soothing. Also, her lips. Those are, DS lips. Dick sucking lips.
You lost, you dingus. And he knows that. He, of course, knows that. But he can't say it on air because then he'll be treated like Ted Cruz.
And we can't forget that Ted Cruz isn't completely innocent here, especially when it comes to the issue of the Capitol riots. In fact, why don't we go to the next video and give you a little taste of who Ted Cruz is and the lies he perpetuated about the 2020 election.
We went into this election with the country deeply divided, deeply polarized, and we've seen in the last 2 months.
He's like, but I got a fucking sick suit, guys. Look at this blue. Look at this blue ass suit. Cornflower blue.
Unprecedented allegations of voter fraud. This past week, I spent.
Oh, the classic TYT transition where they're going to clip a bunch of like sentences out of context to create something.
Writing out a position and assembling a group that ultimately of 11 senators that we put out yesterday that we will together object to certification in order to force the appointment of an emergency electoral commission to perform an emergency audit of the election results to assess these claims of fraud. We need to step forward and defend the rule of law and protect the integrity of our elections. And what I would urge of this body is that we do this.
Brissinger says his intermittent accent is spot on. Gaming Dragon says, honest thoughts on Ted Cruz. He's been slipping a lot lately. Yeah, I mean, there was a time I like, you know, in some respect, I've probably liked Ted Cruz in the past, but it's all rhetoric. It's all empty. And the further along you go into his career, you just see how empty it is once you start paying close attention. And I probably wasn't really paying super close attention to politics until like 2012, 2010. I'm just not that old. You know, I was just naive and immature, just like most people. But like Ted Cruz is just he's a political actor. That's what he is. He's not stupid. He's a bright dude. But I mean, he plays into this shit just like all of them do. And it's wildly disappointing.
Saying that we appoint an electoral commission to conduct a 10-day emergency audit. For those on the Democratic aisle who say there is no evidence, they've been rejected, then you should rest in comfort. If that's the case, an electoral commission would reject those claims.
Are there any objections to counting the certificate of vote of the state of Arizona that the teller is verified?
Q Shaman busts in. Hey now, whoa!
It appears to be regular in form and authentic.
Mr. Vice President, I, Paul Gosar from Arizona.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise?
I rise for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Now, listen, on the other hand, President Trump's rhetoric, I think, went way too far over the line. I think it was both reckless and irresponsible because he said repeatedly, and he said over and over again, he won by a landslide. There was massive fraud. It was all stolen everywhere. That's not responsible. And you've never heard me use language like that.
I don't know, John. It seems like Republican lawmakers like Ted Cruz like to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
This is what I can't stand about this partisan horseshit. As if you could not just selectively find clips of anybody else that they liked. Elizabeth Warren, AOC, whoever. What's that guy's name? The head of the Intel committee? That ball sack? Fuck.
Yeah, like he gets absolute minimal points literally today for admitting the obvious, which is that it's a terrorist attack. Other than that, he's basically as bad as any of them, and arguably worse than many, because not only did he participate as—
So do you think that they consider that when Antifa or political actors, activists trying to burn down federal buildings in like Oregon, do you think they consider that a terrorist attack, or are they just like cool with that? That's just a cool thing that they did. Oh, that's just people. That's the voice of the unheard, just fighting back. Prophet says, I bet even when Anna squirts, she's very uptight about it. Like she could get all pissed. The sheets are soaked. Brissinger said, we should cut their shit out of context. What a show we could make. Oh, people do that. People do that to them too. And they deserve it because they suck. Although it's really hard to, though. It's really hard to take them out of context because most of what they say is so disingenuous, especially Cenk Uygur. Holy shit. Holy shit.
one of those more than 100 Republicans last January 6th, but he was one of relatively few Republican senators that was willing to do it. And Ted Cruz, like some in the we were having this conversation about Sean Hannity yesterday, he might not.
Which, again, this is what they spend most of their time doing, is talking about Fox News. That's usually what they do. Brissinger says, Anna getting uptight and then convincing her to give it up again. It could happen. She would want. She's a dirty girl. You could tell. Come on, these uptight chicks. You know what's going. You know what the score is.
Enthusiastically, convert the Republican Party over like fully into anti-democratic fascism. But if he believes that that's the only way he can get elected, or if he can continue to be relevant in the party, he is perfectly willing to go along with it, and that is morally as bad.
Yeah, the story of every fucking politician everywhere. Thank you, John Idarola. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely, John.
The guy,
absolutely.
His wife, his father was insulted by Donald Trump during the 2016 election, during the Republican primaries. And then he turned around and did phone banking for him. It tells you everything you need to know about how spineless.
Listen, when Donald Trump implied that Ted Cruz's father might have been one of the Kennedy shooters, it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Also, one of my favorite memes is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz being the Zodiac killer. Also incredible.
Ted Cruz really is.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sure you guys
way to show
do.
Support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us
Listen
more.
to
There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are
you can get emojis if you become a member. Fucking emojis, dude. We could be fucking ripping emojis in the chat. Oh wow, they're so fucking cool, dude. They're so turned on. Pathetic Ted Cruz begs for Tucker's forgiveness. Well, I guess we got to go
Senator
there.
Ted Cruz.
Oh, this guy's here's a peach. Senator Ted Cruz. Brissinger says Zodiac killer. It's one of my favorite memes ever. Cenk is an enormous clown, says Gaming Dragon. Totally 1000% agree. That guy is something else, man. He's like Alex Jones, but without the charm. Brissinger says Cruz in the bushes. The front into the back. From the front into the back. Let's see what this Brainiac has to say.
Senator Ted Cruz, he's begging Tucker Carlson to forgive him, please, because he had a short moment of telling the truth as he was speaking at a Senate Rules Committee hearing. Just
See,
on-
again, like they can't even understand the things they hear. They just only see what they want to see. Like, was Ted Cruz like being like trying to beg forgiveness? I don't know if he was begging for forgiveness. He was definitely trying to lessen the impact of the words that he used, 1000%. But this framing of like he had this moment where he told the truth. It's like, no, that's the point of contention is that he was not telling the truth. Okay, guy. Okay, let's see what he has.
Wednesday, the day before.
Also, like, what the fuck are you wearing, dude? Get a fitted suit. You're on the internet. Okay, you see this shirt right here? Fitted by Mr. Walmart. Just for me.
The anniversary of January 6th riots. But I'm gonna let you guys see exactly how he got himself in trouble, because he didn't call them riots. He didn't call them insurrectionists. He had another word for them. So this is the clip from that hearing that got him into the first trouble that leads him to the point he's at just as today. So let's listen to this.
Let's listen to this.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week.
Oh, yeah.
And it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage.
Taking selfies, letting people in the building by the droves. In droves, rather. Brissinger says Ted Cruz was on his knees begging. Okay?
Incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
If you couldn't really tell where the egregious term was, it was terrorists. Terrorists. A terror attack on January 6th. It's a solemn week coming up. Well, Tucker Carlson wanted nothing to do with this rhetoric, and he responded immediately here.
Conservative Republican senators. What are they busy doing? Well, they're busy.
How many shows do they have? They're going to recycle the same footage? Tarami says, I'm sure this clip isn't going to be doctored at all. Oh, it's definitely going to be, they selectively choose things 1000%. Yeah.
Repeating.
They have that nice, that transition. It's like the flash light transition when they cut things together to hide their
points that Merrick
hide
Garland
their cuts.
has written for them. Here's one example. He doesn't use a single word by accident. Every word Ted Cruz uses is used intentionally. He's a lawyer. He just
Oh my God, Tucker Carlson holding somebody accountable. And he actually has the platform and the voice to do it. Brissinger say, I have to say, Alex Jones breaking into a YouTube meeting was hilarious. Oh, did he really? I didn't even see that. See, I go back and catch up with Alex Jones like every couple months. So I'm always a little behind. Gaming Dragon says that black guy shops at the City Mall. He definitely does. He's not fucking. I'm just saying, just get it tailored, do something. You look frumpy. You look frumpy, my dude. You need some help.
January 6th is a violent terrorist attack. Of all the things that January 6th was, it was definitely not.
The Young Turks meeting. Oh, the one when they were at the RNC. It is classic. It's hilarious. Jimmy Dore spits on him. I remember I watched that shit live. Legendary.
A violent terrorist attack. It wasn't an insurrection. Was it a riot? Sure. It was not a violent terrorist attack. Sorry. So why are you telling us that it was, Ted Cruz?
Speaking directly to Ted, why are you telling us that that's what it was? So Tucker Carlson's begun the onslaught, but don't let him be the only one, because once Tucker Carlson, the seemingly new de facto leader of the Republican Party, once Donald Trump finishes screwing things up, Steve Bannon said, hey, don't forget about me. I like to get in on everything that's said. So on his show, he said, my problem with the gutless Republican is with the gutless Republican Party.
This is, you're scooping up Anna's leftovers, my dude. Not a good look. Very beta. Beta. You black.
They will not take a stand. This is why we've won more elections than we've lost, and we've lost the country in the process. Sorry, Steve, that's actually not the reason why, but I hear you're jumping on Ted Cruz and his...
Again, like another person autistically, willfully misunderstanding what Steve Bannon is saying. And I'm not even a huge Steve Bannon guy. I'm not like a big fan of Steve Bannon or anything. I think he's just a political operator, just like everybody else. But I knew what he meant.
A mention of terrorism and terrorists on that. So at this point, Ted Cruz is panicking. He doesn't know what to do. As we've seen before.
Take a breath. You're going to be all right. I know this is a lot to say in one go.
When he gets himself in some trouble, he's like, maybe I can go to the money people and that'll help me out a little bit. But before that, he's got to make sure he goes to the source, to the kingmaker. He goes on Tucker Carlson's show last night and grovels. Please, let's watch this one.
Let's do it.
So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use.
I like this tactic by Tucker, though. This like, you're one of the good ones. You're one of the smart ones, buttering him up before he calls him a piece of shit.
Words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
Straight up.
Gaming Dragon says, my problem with this whole thing is you could technically say the Capitol riot was terrorism by definition. See, that's where I would disagree with that. I don't think that there was an organized group of people with a political ideology going to do something. I think there was probably some agent provocateurs involved. Seems like there might be a Fed or two involved. I mean, like, how do we not know who planted the pipe bomb? Still, to this day, we have no fucking idea. We're arresting grandmas, but that's it. And the people that actually enacted violence is a very small group of people. Most people were just like milling about. Now there's some footage because it's a big place. So on like one side, there's people just being let in, taking selfies with cops, making jokes, milling around, walking between velvet ropes, and then on one of the entrances, there's like a lot of violence. It was just bad shit going on, but it wasn't ubiquitous. It wasn't everywhere. And that's kind of, I think, what gets lost on people because they see just like the footage of the cops trying to stop the people in the tunnel. And that's their entire perspective on it. Even I had that reaction the day it happened. I think YouTube pulled it down. There used to be a live stream I did with my brother where we were watching like footage and we were going over everything and looking at stuff. And when you don't have the timeline of events like straight, because it's hard to in the moment as the day went on, like, and it wasn't being reported fairly. Like, you think you're like, holy shit, this is fucking wild. This is crazy. And then you start actually looking into it a little bit more and you start watching footage and watching other people's live streams and other things that happened. And you're like, well, this is not as presented. It's just not. And I'm not saying like it's a good thing. I think if you ended up going in there, you're kind of a fucking idiot. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Seriously, like what are you doing? Why would you in a million years think that, even whether the cops are letting you in or whatever, why would you think that's a good idea? I don't understand that at all. I don't get that. I don't get that shit. I mean, even when Ashley Babbitt gets shot, like, there's some chaos, there's some stuff going around, but there's also just cops like standing around with M16s while people are milling about. It's very fucking weird. It's a weird day. A weird day. But I would push back against calling it a terrorist event or a terroristic event. I just don't see it that way, because I don't think the vast majority of people, probably like we're talking like 98% of people involved in this, had any real clue of what was going on. Maybe a lot of naive, dumb boomer people. A lot of people are fucking stupid, Gaming Dragon. Don't forget that. People are fucking dumb. People are dumb and easily swayed and go along with the crowd. Brissinger says it wasn't a riot. It was all planted drama. It's like when you go to the mall, the city mall, at the AMC. It's calm as fuck. But when you get to Victoria's Secret, the tops are dropping. Gaming Dragon says, oh yeah, I don't believe it was an insurrection. I'm just giving Ted Cruz the benefit of the doubt. Hey, and that's fair. Because, like, he tried to explain it on Tucker Carlson. He's like, well, That's the rhetoric that I had used in the past year for anybody that had brought violence against the police. The only problem I would say with that is that he said it on the in Congress. He said it during the anniversary of January 6th, which means it's for political expediency, and it's kind of like trying to reach across the aisle, I guess you could say. And it just seems a little disingenuous. Like, you can go on Tucker Carlson and clean it up and be like, hey, man, this is what I really meant, but the damage is already done. The damage is done in terms of like official records, the way that history is going to look back on it. History is not going to be pulling up clips of Tucker Carlson and TYT to figure out what happened in 100 years. It's just not. They're going to go look at the records and the transcripts of what was said in Congress. Most likely, right? Or maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe this will be part of the record, the way things were reported. But I don't know.
I just don't. Shut up, Ted. Shut up. Okay, look, I can't love that anymore than I already do.
Yes, we got Chank, dude. The big brown buffalo himself.
I think it's going to have one big downside later, okay, which I'll explain in a minute. But first,
I'm sure you will.
Cruz coming in, he already
First
had his
Singer
beta
says super
face on.
disingenuous.
Like when he's about to grovel, he does this. So he had that beta face ready to go, and then Tucker goes, "Puh." Bam, backhanded slap right across the face, and he's like, "You're gonna see him grovel in a second. It's great."
This is all he cares about. It's just like the high school drama, the politics. He reads everybody's minds. He knows everybody's intentions. He's a body language expert, apparently. Mr. Pliskin says TYT equals school shooters. Mayhaps. Brissinger says Cenk shitting on Cruz is so superb. Bro, Cenk versus Cruz. Yeah, right after Cenk's done fighting Joe Rogan. Mr. Pliskin says liminal order equals school shooters. Well, that actually might be true, or at least shooters in general.
But I'm going to give ironic credit here. That's how you're supposed to treat a politician. You're not supposed to kiss their ass if you're a reporter. You're supposed to challenge them. And
see, he's not wrong here. He's not wrong here. A lot of people get all up in arms about the way the media treated Trump. And I think, obviously being disingenuous and framing things unfairly and all that horseshit, definitely wrong. But being hard on a president, I think, is the job of the media. And if the media apply those tactics that they used against Donald Trump to every president, then I wouldn't care, wouldn't have a problem with it. But we all know that it goes in one direction. And it's not like for genuine discovery. It's not for knowledge. It's not for figuring out what's going on. It's for doing what this guy does. For dunk points. Fucking sick pwn, CNN. Joy Reid, you really fucking pwned that guy. Gaming Dragon says, what a child. Oh, he is, dude.
so that was so jarring because the exception proves the rule. You watch my interviews with many politicians, including ones I agree with. Ro Khanna, it was a good recent example. You watch the Tulsi Gabbard interviews. You watch a lot of these interviews, and you're supposed to aggressively ask them to explain what they're doing.
He's never aggressively gone after anybody he likes. He has never done anything even coming close, except maybe Tulsi Gabbard, because they just don't like Tulsi because she's not a complete cuck, for lack of a better way to put it. He's never done that. Never with anybody that he likes or supports. Brissinger says, let's be honest, Biden couldn't last against the media if they went on the attack. No, he couldn't. The guy is a walking gaffe machine. He was a walking gaffe machine before he lost his fucking mind, before he became a dumb old man. He was a walking gaffe machine. When he was vice president, they basically put him in a fucking closet because every time he would go out, he would say something crazy and incendiary, and then they would spend the next 3 weeks having to try to clean it up. Went down to Georgia and told people the Republicans want to put you all back in chains, or insulting some guy at a fucking frozen yogurt shop. The guy's a fucking moron. Pliskin says these guys are a blue pill cake with red pill sprinkles.
And so that's what Tucker did there, and I think that's totally fair. What was surprising is Cruz's reaction, which you'll see more of in a second. But I'll also say this. Look, I don't love the word terrorist because it's so misused and overused. So I'd rather not have anybody be called terrorist. It's so silly overall, right? Everyone who doesn't like someone calls them a terrorist, right?
Or Hitler.
But they were definitely not terrorists, Tucker said. Well, they did break into a government building for political purpose, attacked police, people died, and they chanted about murdering people. Let's put it this way. If there was a group of several thousand Muslim men who had broken into the Capitol, chanting, by the way, this same exact thing, hang Mike Pence, and had killed some people along the way, do we think Tucker would have paused before calling them terrorists? Same exact actions. You know he wouldn't have. You know it.
Before we jump, Lucid, I'm gonna let you jump in and get more thoughts on this. I want to get to that last half of.
And you would have been on the other side of the argument. And you would have been on the other side of the argument, Cenk. You're completely disingenuous. If that's how you feel, oh, it's it's an overused term, it's misused, it's thrown around a lot. You totally would. You totally would be on the other side of the argument. So come on now.
Him groveling and trying to get Tucker back on his side. Because there was one section where he did kind of mention that Tucker, which I cut out from this, but he was mentioning how, hey, you can't talk about international terrorism here, which indicates he does think the only way you can call anyone a terrorist or indicate terrorism has happened is that they have to be foreign terrorists. Hence why he thinks it's only Islamic terrorism, which he thinks is just that's the base definition, you know? So yeah. So one more clip here as Ted Cruz.
Gaming Dragon says terrorist. That's our word. Pretty much, actually. It's kind of that basic. Ask Cenk and Anna what they think about John Brown and Harper's Ferry. Pliskin says same goes to Simp Poolcast. Yeah, kind of a little bit. The centrist purple pill stuff. Brissinger says, I wonder what pant size Cenk squeezes into. I'm gonna say a 44. I would say a 44.
Cruz continues to grovel and try to get back in good graces.
I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists, and that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but wait, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism? So why'd you do it?
So Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason I use that word for a decade, I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday. And the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist.
Wait. Can I ask, hold on, you work in the, I guess I just don't believe you. And I mean that with respect.
Look, I'm the one leading the fight in the Senate against this garbage.
Are you, Ted?
Dude, 5 seconds here, 3 seconds there.
He's definitely leading the fight, but he's leading the fight for getting on his knee to bow.
That was an open-handed slap, boy. Okay, and what did Ted do? Like, oh, yeah, you're right, Tucker. I'm a dummy, Tucker. Bye-bye. I mean, Ted Cruz's political career completely over. Go ahead, Lucid.
This is Ted Cruz classically trying to have it both ways.
Go ahead, Lucid. Oh, great. Now that they're on Twitch, they got to be hip with the kids. Hey, get this guy with the fucking the bisexual lighting that probably streams video games and talks about communism all day.
That's right. Like he's been integral to the idea of the Republican Party for a long time, right? Ted Cruz was like classically the domestic policy advisor for George W. Bush all the way back in '99. Like he's been around for a while. He was, as Tucker mentioned, like a Supreme Court contender at one point. And he wants to stay beholden to that old establishment part of the Republican Party where they constantly like appeal to the police no matter what. He constantly like appeals to at least this idea that if you challenge authority in a certain way, that's still bad. But that doesn't like vibe with the new more populist leanings that Tucker Carlson and Stephen Bannon and others are going towards, right? Like that doesn't play for him, and that doesn't play with the message that Tucker Carlson wants to put out to his audience.
So that's a great point by Lucid. And so I wanted to get to
So he's saying that like Ted Cruz is an establishment bootlicker, and I guess Tucker Carlson isn't. Is that the point you're making? Brissinger says big communism.
What is Tucker actually getting at here, right? And and I actually, again, this is, I know it's a shocking turn of events, but that I say this because we actually do an honest show. I think Tucker's onto something, which is that I'm now seeing, and you heard us talking about it for the last couple of weeks on air, a number of Republicans now going, nah, let's get away from this stuff, right? Let's get away from January 6th and pretending Trump won the election. And you saw Brian Kilmeade do it this morning on Fox News. And so we've been showing it to you as they're doing it. My theory on this is not a complicated one. It's the same theory every time because it's obvious, follow the money. I think Republican donors have said,
oh, the donors, somebody took $10,000, the donors. Brissinger says, look at that purple lighting. Oh yeah, bisexual lighting. Every streamer's favorite lighting. I got to get me some bisexual lighting. Really spice things up around here. Laugh my ass off on a show. What the fuck? Yeah, they're not. Actually, it's funny. Cenk actually did like a debate or a talk with Tucker Carlson like not that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago maybe, and he completely folded. And like Tucker Carlson just talks circles around him because Cenk's a fucking moron. It's like if you go back and watch like Cenk debating Sam Harris about like the Islamic world and what is more of a threat, Christianity or the Islamic world, what is more of a threat to the Western society, and he couldn't even follow the conversation. He's a big, dumb fucking moron.
enough of this crap. This is destabilizing. We don't like it. Stability helps the markets, and we're worried about this. So hey, all of you dogs, turn around now and start saying that Trump's not that big a deal. You should stop whining, etc. So I think Lucid's right that Ted Cruz is trying to play both sides, and it's so.
Oh, he's probably not wrong about this. Like the Republican Party writ large is definitely abandoning MAGA, abandoning Trumpism, and then Trump himself, because it's not politically expedient anymore. They know that they need that, just packaged differently. So we're going to see 2024 is going to be interesting. Hopefully our this channel is still around. We'll see.
They're such funny fake populists because Tucker Carlson on his online show wears his flannel shirt to tell you, I'm a common man. Dude, you used to wear a bow tie. Keep it real, right? And Ted Cruz, before clean shaven, oh yes, donors, I would like your money and I'm from Harvard, right? Now he's got the beard on. Oh yeah, I'm a populist man. And every once in a while, though, when the donors tell him, "Sick boy, sick," he goes, "Terrorist."
Actually, one of the better things about Tucker Carlson, and I don't like agree with everything Tucker Carlson says or every position he has, and I honestly don't watch a ton of Tucker Carlson in my private life, in my IRL. He's very open about the fact that he comes from a rich, wealthy family. It's affected his perspective and his bias. And when anybody asks him about it, he just completely cops to it. He does not try to hide it at all. And he's had a long, varied career. He's been humbled by a lot of things. But point taken, I suppose.
And then Tucker goes, "Heel boy, heel." And Tucker, and he comes on because he's a natural born beta. And that's why I get so frustrated with Democrats. These guys are so weak. You just have to push them a little bit and they'll fall over. And Democrats can't even muster that up. Look at how weak he is. I'm so sorry, Tucker. Tucker could have said in the middle of that segment, "Oh, by the way, I'm going out with your wife later tonight." And Cruz would have been like, "Oh, you're so right. I'm so dumb. She doesn't know how you should take her."
I always wonder exactly what, well, not always, but in this particular.
Brissinger says, how often? What I can't fucking stand is how often Tuck invades other base interests. I'm not sure what you mean. Gaming Dragon says it's really baffling how transparent Tucker is. He kind of lays it out there because that's part of being like a populist. I think he understands the attraction to kind of transparency and not being kind of disingenuous. I don't think Tucker Carlson's really hiding the ball. Like, he's not hiding his power level. He's just kind of out there saying what he says. Brissinger said, I had a favorite show online I watched, and eventually what happened? A Tuck attack.
Particular case. After that interview ends, you know when you have a really bad either like experience or back in school when you get called on and everybody's watching, you don't have the answer. That was for a full however many minutes that Ted Cruz was going through trying to explain himself and get back into good graces. And there was annoyance, there was waving off. Those types of things just don't really happen. And we've heard these stories about how, in general, many politicians, pundits, all of them don't really like Ted Cruz. They kind of put up with him. And so when he actually crosses the line for them with a little bit of truth, then they're like, oh, here's my chance. I can lay into him and nobody's gonna stop me because no one else likes this guy.
He's pretty well liked, dude. Come on. Brissinger says they accepted a giant donation from Tuck and had him on their show. Probably. Prophet says, sorry, I had to dip out. Edge with Lil Zay went live and I had to screen cap. He's getting high again. Well, shit, dude. If you got any footage, we'll watch it on Monday. On D Live, everybody, if you want to check out Nightcap, we do a special Monday night show on D Live only. Sometimes the archives make it to YouTube. Sometimes they don't, depending on how wild it gets. But yeah, bring it.
But Jared, that's a great point, and it made me remember. You remember when Ted Cruz was considered the most right-wing Republican in the country? That wasn't that long ago. That was about 5 years ago. And
when was he ever considered the most right-wing Republican?
And even other Republicans would, like, I think even Lindsey Graham said it. Like, if he died, no one would mind. Like, because he was so.
Well, he was a constitutionalist. I think that's the term. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong.
Stubborn in being a fake right-wing populist, and he'd hold up everything, etc. Now he's considered way too soft and moderate for the extreme right wing. Like, the Republican Party has gone so far right, it's so extreme that Ted Cruz being considered a moderate is insanity. But we got more.
Yes. Well,
what the fuck is like really truly right wing about the modern Republican Party? Like, everybody's gone to this kind of libertarian edge. What the fuck is super right wing about the Republican Party right now? I mean, come on. Brissinger says, nope, never. I'm assuming that's in regards to Cruz being the most right wing. What in the literal fuck? Tell me about it.
I want to jump down really fast because the piling on, you want the piling on?
Yeah.
Let's get the piling on. I was going to jump past the piling on because, this guy's been beaten long enough. But I just want to go to the first of his tweets. He had a series of tweets, Ted Cruz did, after that appearance, which again, man, I'm not sure if anybody's advising him or if he thinks these things through. But after that embarrassing moment, then he went on Twitter, posted the interview, and tried to explain himself again. But this is the first of like 3 or 4 tweets. Yesterday, I used a dumb choice of words. And unfortunately, a lot of people are misunderstanding.
All politicians should be banned from fucking social media. Banned. Should not be allowed on there at all. Not in any type of official capacity. It's good for no one.
What I meant there with Tucker, and if you click on that, you'll see it. I was not calling the thousands of peaceful protesters on January 6th terrorists. I would never do so. Then he started talking about.
Well, that's actually literally what you did.
Yeah, so, and then now it's Democrats' fault and all that.
Yeah, sure it is, Ted. No, look, this isn't winning him any favors with anybody. I mean,
I think you see that on Tucker's show, right? He realizes what he did. He realizes that he made a misstep. And then when Tucker calls him out on it, he's like, oh no, please don't do this to me. You can't do this to me. I'm just starting to coalesce power again. I really want to be president one day, guys.
And by the way,
and nobody likes this guy.
Yeah, and Lucid, Tucker. My theory is that Tucker's going to run one.
Lucid, my bro. How's the meta going on Twitch? Brissinger says this is straight BS. It's the left. Yes. What are they doing on there? They shouldn't be on there. They're on there because that's where people go. Well, it's actually not even that huge fucking contingent of the population on there, at least in America, anyways. Travis says virtually nobody should be on social media for their own sake, really. Yeah, I agree with you. It's cancerous. We don't even know like the full psychological ramifications of social media yet. We have a little previews into it. There's been studies on how it affects like teenagers and suicide, depression, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is linked to the fact that people do not actually feel like they have any alone time or private thoughts. And also, how you present yourself online sometimes is in contrast to your actual life. And the fact that you can't actually live up to how you present yourself to people drives people a little crazy. Bruce Singer said, Lucid, go watch Deadpool. Oh, yeah. You know he loves Deadpool, dude.
Monday, okay? And so he just humiliated one of his top opponents. Now, if you're going to vote, if you're a right winger and you're watching that, who are you going to vote for, Tucker or Ted? It's over. It's over. All of Ted Cruz's ambitions, all of the pathetic groveling that he did to Donald Trump and everyone else, all of those lies and machinations for Ted Cruz, all gone to waste. His wife humiliated, his dad humiliated, all of it wasted.
Beta.
In that moment right there, Tucker's the alpha,
Beta.
he's the beta, and especially in the Republican
He
world,
actually said
you're
it.
done.
He actually fucking said it. Travis says Deadpool is so subversive. Sorry, words right now. And different ooh. Listen, I like the Deadpool movies just fine. Complete transparency. They're fine. But yeah, I agree with you. Brissinger says, sorry guys, but I'm a Wolverine fan.
Done, son. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube.
Look at these pathetic fucking groveling beggars.
Memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun.
Thank God.
But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.
And then it's all yours. Keys to the kingdom. All right. We got some more TYT stuff. Or actually, let's check this out. So this is CNN's version of what we just watched. Some hoe at
Something
CNN.
of note happened the past 2 nights on Fox, perhaps not that unusual considering what we just saw in Tom's report, but it began when Senator Ted Cruz described the events of January 6th from the site of the infamous day.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week.
What is it with all news channels and having the most low fucking volume? Now I got to use this volume booster that's going to fuck up the volume.
And it is an anniversary of a
It'll be
violent
too loud
terrorist
now.
attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Straightforward, nothing crazy about that comment. Ted Cruz just saying what is. And yet no way was Fox's chief propagandist going to let it stand.
Of all the things that January 6th was, it was definitely not a violent terrorist attack. It wasn't an insurrection. Was it a riot? Sure. It was not a violent terrorist attack. Sorry. So why are you telling us that it was, Ted Cruz? And why are none of your Republican friends are supposed to be representing us and all the people who've been arrested during this purge saying anything? What the hell's going on here?
Tucker.
Brissinger says, oh my God, no. I would almost prefer to watch Cruz throw up on live TV than this BS. Well, that would at least be interesting. But we got to see. We got to sit through it. We got to sit through the fire.
Carlson mad that an elected official won't peddle the lies that he does. So last night he had Cruz on, not so that Cruz could enlighten him to reality, but so that the two of them could go night swimming in Tucker's cesspool of BS and Cruz could self-flagellate.
This is like 90% of cable news. If it's not Fox News, they just talk about Fox News.
Before millions.
You called this a terror attack.
We already saw this.
When by no definition was it a terror attack. That's
Too many
a lie.
times.
You told that lie.
Misunderstand what I meant.
Well, we will get to the groveling in a moment, but first, Cruz's claim that his words were spontaneous and sloppy. Actually, they were accurate, but perhaps more importantly here, consistent with what he said right after the attack. A year ago, as he was misreading the degree to which his party was committed to Trump, he said, quote, "The attack at the Capitol."
Brissinger says, yeah, it makes Fox pretty suspect. Oh, they're not good either. They're just on the other end of the spectrum. They're like a honeypot.
Was a despicable act of terrorism and shocking assault on our democratic system. The Department of Justice should vigorously prosecute anyone who was involved in these brazen acts of violence. And yet last night, Cruz rushed to the misinformation mothership faster than he fled to Cancun during a deadly deep freeze in his state to bend the knee before Tucker Carlson.
See, it's just all high school, childish bullshit. There is no substance to any of this shit. To any of it. What does anybody learn or gather from watching this? Look, she looks like that chick from Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. Mira Sorvino. She's like Mira Sorvino's chubby sister.
Even though the Fox host isn't a serious or even believable person. We know that. Cruz knows that.
We know
Carlson
that.
himself knows that, or at least the lawyers who represented him in court do. They defended him successfully, mind you, in a slander case in 2020. The judge, a Trump appointee, recapping their case, quote, "Fox persuasively argues that given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer, quote, arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statement he makes." The Fox lawyers had again successfully argued that the, quote, "general tenor of the show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary." Official verdict. He's full of it. He's just one right wing, one.
Just again and again. That's all. This is all they do. Like, he's full of it. That you can't. Like, how can people believe this? Why does he have better ratings than I do? Brissinger says it's like I'm watching an episode of Friends or The Office. Kind of, just with this interpersonal drama constantly. It's like watching reality television.
One of right-wing cable's most elite, professionally aggrieved bullshit artists. The problem is that
Bullshit artists. Are you allowed to say that? That's very edgy. It's very edgy. Brissinger says, I'm wondering how many of these ladies have their own OnlyFans accounts. Probably a few on the low, on the DL. They'll wear one of those like body masks. Completely anonymous. All sexuality. All kink.
Carl's viewers actually believe him. Carlson's viewers actually believe him. They're not in on the joke. They're not in on the joke that Tucker Carlson is in on, that he is a joke. Elsewhere on Fox Entertainment Television, they didn't like how Vice President Kamala Harris said that January 6th will be added to the list of dates in American history that will live in infamy.
They're trying to turn it into Pearl Harbor. They're trying to turn it into 9/11. When I heard Kamala Harris...
Yeah, that's fucking insane. That's fucking insane. To suggest that January 6th is anything like those events is fucking madness.
First, compare January 6th to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. It's ridiculous. It's an abomination.
Absurd and ridiculous to compare January 6th to either of those days.
The most disgusting part of the day was what you referenced in your monologue, where the Vice President of the United States says this is January 6th was the equivalent to Pearl Harbor. What a goofball.
Because after all, these are hosts.
Let's see here. Brissinger says, I'm cheap. Brown lunch bags. Yeah, me too. Big Paul says, did you see Representative Gates and Green press conference yesterday where they showed January 6th footage? You know what? I haven't, and we'll watch that next.
With deep knowledge of days that will live in infamy.
Little stars. Take that, arsonists. We are live here at Fox Square. Yesterday, a cowardly Christmas creep burned down our all-American Christmas tree.
We knew that we couldn't let it stop us.
I mean, this shit is not good. I'm not gonna lie. This is like this American Idol fucking just pageantry that they do here is a little stupid, especially since the guy that burned down the tree just seemed like a nut. I don't know if it was an affront to Fox and their mission.
Knew that we wouldn't be deterred.
We now want to welcome our first guest of the evening, Fox News contributor Reverend Jacques Dugraff.
It is embarrassing.
80 years
It
ago,
is.
this week, they tried to extinguish the darkness at a place called Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah, you heard that right. Let's play that one more time.
Oh my God. Is Zoobox? Is fucking Nightcap on CNN? That's my move. Hold on. Let's listen to that one more time.
Years ago, this week, they tried to extinguish the darkness at a place called Pearl Harbor.
When it comes to hypocrites, there's always tape.
Could I just say one more thing about Ted Cruz there?
Oh,
it's
sure.
Like
Go for
7:28
it.
a.m. You know, Ted Cruz, do you know where your spine is? I thought he handled it better in Game of Thrones when he was Theon Greyjoy to Ramsay Bolton there. Oof. Honestly, that was like reek.
Oh my God. That was like reek. You guys have seen Game of Thrones, haven't you? Bring a singer says, why are they yelling? And that is your move. It is my move. That's my move.
It was like this. It was like watching Reek in Game of Thrones there, how he was addressing him. The power structure there. Oh, I was so uncomfortable.
This is like the Mean Girls at like, okay, so we just listened to this whole 6-minute thing. What did they actually say? Did they say anything? In all of this, did they actually say anything? No, they didn't. And she's just, you called him Reek. Jesus Christ. I mean, come on. Big Paul says, puke. Referencing something the kids watch. Brissinger says, Game of Thrones is the best he can do in 2022. Well, he just caught up. Spice Girls, Power Rangers. Yeah, they'd be like, this is like when Rita Repulsa brought down the clay demon onto the Rangers. And they had no choice but to get their Zords and come together and fight back the enemy. That's what we do here at CNN.
Uncomfortable watching that.
That is such an apt metaphor.
Yeah, well, you know, if the shoe fits or the codpiece fits.
I don't know.
Wow, so they just called Ted Cruz a dickless simp on national television. Holy shit. Just bringing up those standards, huh? Trami says, Game of Thrones. I know what that is. DiCaprio pointing at TV meme. Brissinger says, nice DiCap reference.
I think that, Tucker Carlson will be picking his teeth this morning with Ted Cruz's spine, is sort of what I think.
What? Is picking his teeth with his spine? Is that a Game of Thrones reference? Fuck if I know, everybody. Oh, what is going on with my thing here? There we go. Okay. So, let's see here. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Gates, January 6th. Okay, here it is. Here's their press conference. I think it's the whole thing. On the truth of January 6th. On the truth. The truth of it.
Requested a larger.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's see what they got. What's going on here? No. This shit is really driving me nuts. Okay. I don't need you right now. Turn off. Thank you.
Was the largest room that
Oh, maybe I do need it.
could get from Speaker Pelosi. So if you're uncomfortably cramped and not appropriately socially distanced, no, that was not by our hand. Congresswoman
Bruce Singer says, "Whoa, if the boot fits, but Buzz Lightyear, fucking boomers, they're a mess." Trami says they didn't wear cod pieces either because that was too accurate for that grim dark shit. Hold on.
Green and I are not here to celebrate January 6th. We're not here to obsess about it, but we are here to expose the truth, to ask key questions about what happened on January 6th, who animated the violence, the extent to which the federal government may have been involved. We know this: January 6th last year wasn't an insurrection. No one has been charged with insurrection. No one has been charged with treason. But it very well may have been a Fed-surrection. We are very...
Yeah, but they're like fucking like thrown in solitary confinement, treated poorly, kind of insane shit. This is one of these moments where especially like all of these Republican assholes, it's just like, if you believe in the integrity of our system and rule of law and all this stuff, shouldn't you ensure that it's being fucking met out properly? No matter the circumstances, this would be the true test of the integrity of the system. That's what it would be. How do you treat people that you think are terrorists or insurrectionists or whatever? And they don't. Trami says, not here to obsess about it, but let's keep talking. It's amazing how often they say this. Was Charlottesville when the feds arrested themselves? I don't know.
Very concerned that we have sent letter after letter to Attorney General Garland and FBI Director Wray to simply get to the bottom of unexplained circumstances where people are on the FBI most wanted list from January 6th, and then they fall off of that list. FBI Director Wray was asked under oath before the Congress about the federal assets and agents that were on the ground on January 6th, and he wouldn't provide clear answers. Attorney General Garland was asked in the Judiciary Committee by my colleague Thomas.
That's why all this bullshit is theater. They get brought before Congress, very serious. They're going to be asked questions under oath, and they just don't. They just say, I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. We'll look into it. I don't know.
Massey about Ray Epps. He could have cleared up that circumstance and resolved these questions, but he declined to do so. It seems that senior officials in our Justice Department have no problem giving long speeches to try to politically target and smear those they disagree with, but they don't answer the questions that can get to the truth of what really happened on January 6th. I want to credit the reporting at Revolver News for having aggregated a number of the videos that I'm going to go through now that I think...
Which Revolver News, I don't know anything about them as a entity or a group or who runs it or whatever. I really don't. But they did a huge expose on a lot of this stuff, which obviously Matt Gaetz is referencing. And it was very long. It was very thorough. And to put a lot of things in perspective. And it's one of the best pieces of journalism in the past, like, 20 years. In a just world, it would probably win a Pulitzer. But we don't live in a just world. And things like the, the 1619 Project, that's what we get Pulitzers for.
Continue to ripen these very deep concerns that Congresswoman Green and I have, and I would ask you to play the first clip.
We need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
There's old baked Alaska. Well, if you're calling the dude a Fed, then why did you go in, you fucking dummy? But yeah, so who is this guy? Ray Epps. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody wants to talk about this dude for some reason. There's no clear answers. They can throw the book at your grandma, the boomers that walked in there, but fucking Ray Epps, well, that's tough. That's tough. Brissinger says, think about it. Without journalism and shit like this, there's 100% no accountability. Well, that's the entire paradigm that we're under now. That's the construct. That's what they're trying to build. A world without accountability. Journalism's intention, what it's supposed to be there, is to speak truth to power, to not have friends, to not buddy up to people, to not like make excuses, but to ask hard questions and just find the truth. That's not what we have. That's not what we have at all. On both sides of national media, you just have extensions of party politics. It's just propaganda.
I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested. Well, let's not say we need to go. I'll say it. All right, we need to go into the Capitol. We need to go into the Capitol. I didn't see that coming. Okay. Monument Hill.
Yeah, just some random guy just out there trying to get people to go to the Capitol for no reason beforehand. Oh, just a wild shit, man. Why would we need to ask him questions?
No, when we go in. Are we going to get arrested if we go up there? You don't need to get shot. Arrest us all?
This is the very last thing that
Brissinger says, such a Fed, so obvious. Yeah, and everybody called him out the night before. Everybody knew it.
happens before the breach. You've got Ray Epps whispering into this guy's ear, and this is the moment of breach. You know, if you were the January 6th committee, wouldn't you want to know what Ray Epps whispered into that individual's ear? And here, this is the moment of breach. Epps, part of the breach squad. So, I mean, this is just the information that has been pieced together by citizens, by small media outlets. Imagine if we actually had the powers of the January 6th committee, the powers of the federal government to understand why Ray Epps, the evening of the 5th, is out telling people dispassionately, professionally, with laser focus that the objective is to enter the United States Capitol building. And then on the 6th, it's not the Proud Boys who engage in the initial breach. It's Ray Epps at that precise moment. Now, Ray Epps was originally on the FBI's list of most wanted individuals after the initial events on January 6th. But then the day after, Revolver News publishes an explosive report about Stuart Rhodes, who's involved with the Oath Keepers. Then all of a sudden, Ray Epps' name falls off the list. We've sent letters asking questions about that unexplainable circumstance, and the FBI and the Justice Department have given us no illuminating information. But it wasn't just...
This raises so many interesting questions. It's just like, who is in fucking control? If you're a member of Congress or you're a senator, you're a governor, you're a representative, you can't even get fucking answers from them. Who are they accountable to? Who are they accountable to? No one, apparently. They don't have to say shit to you. They don't have to say shit to Congress. They don't have to say shit to anybody. They don't owe you answers. And it's been like this since the inception of these institutions, too.
Just Ray Epps, who appears to be on video animating violence this day in the absence of consequence. Please play the next clip.
Brissinger says, feds chasing feds. Well, they ain't chasing nobody.
Being cut, removed by this individual right here with the backpack. Look, professionally.
Brissinger says, oh, you know, accountable to Bezos. I wish they were accountable at least to Bezos. I don't even think that's what it is. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on old YouTube.
Not whipped up in the crowd, just taking fence down. Now, just moments ago, Congresswoman Green and I went to this specific location outside, and we demonstrated how easy it could have been that an individual might have listened to the president's remarks, arrived at the breach site, seen that fencing was removed, and then might have been drawn into a place that they weren't supposed to be and maybe never intended to be. But that individual, the fence cutter that we saw in that last video, nowhere on the FBI's wanted list. No evidence that person's been questioned. January 6th committee doesn't want to talk to them. Why would that person be doing something that so dramatically impacted the acuity of the criminal conduct and then no consequence? But they weren't alone. in an elevated position on the top of scaffolding that have been set up for the media for observance of that day. We have someone that the internet is kind of identified as scaffold commander, giving persistent instruction to the crowd that had gathered. Play the next clip.
Not just stand there. Move forward. Help somebody over the wall. Move forward. Come on, Cowboy. Let's go, Cowboy.
And the next clip, I believe, is also.
I mean, that's pretty like provocative footage. It's pretty provocative. If their goal, the January 6th commission, is to find evidence of an actual organized insurrection, you might want to talk to the people that were trying to organize it in real time, on the fly. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz, but I give them some credit here. Kind of have to.
And the next image. And it's not like we don't know who this guy is. The very individual who is directing the crowd to fill the Capitol with persistence, with focus, is this person. I saw recently that the federal government is engaged in all type of contracting services with facial recognition companies, and you're telling me they can't find this guy in what Attorney General Garland and Director Wray say is the most expansive, the most comprehensive investigation in America's history?
Brissinger says it's so obvious. It is obvious. That's why this is like some wild, giant gaslighting campaign.
There may be a perfectly good explanation for why these individuals, appearing to act in concert of purpose, have had very bizarre lacking in their interaction with the federal government, but we deserve those answers. And tens of millions of Americans should not be targeted and smeared and lied about until we get them. Congresswoman Greene and I were not on the grounds this day. We did not speak at the ellipse.
Brissinger says Yuri Bezmenov, shut. Or shit, I assume you meant to type. But yeah, it is Yuri Bezmenov stuff.
This day because she and I had a very specific focus for the debate. Congressman Jordan was preparing to lead a floor effort where different teams would present affidavits and evidence and legal precedent and would review judicial rulings that we thought missed the point of jurisdiction. We were ready to go make those arguments on the floor, on television, for all of America to see as part of our objection to electors from states that we did not believe ran clean elections. We wanted to point out the unilateral changes that occurred in election law that we thought were unconstitutional and illegal. And Congresswoman Greene and I were working together specifically on the state of Michigan. So we did not show up on January 6th cheerleading for, hoping for any type of violence or disruption. To the contrary, we wanted to follow the constitutional process to be able to make our arguments. And unfortunately, that was the true disruption of what occurred on January 6th. I mean, Joe Biden's certification still occurred on January 6th, but we were deprived of the opportunity to make our argument to the country about election integrity. And that is a very same.
Well, that's a good point, right? Like the January 6th kerfuffle allowed for Congress to shove something through before they got to present their case. Gave them the context for it because like, whoa, we have to certify the election right now. Right now, look what's going on. Look at this craziness. We have to get it done. Democracy is at stake.
Constitutional process that was contemplated when Jim McGovern, the Democrat chairman of the Rules Committee, literally got up and objected in 2017 to the state of Alabama, a state that Donald Trump won by over 40 points. So when they do it, they're making a principled point. And when we do it, they try to smear us and tens of millions of Americans as insurrectionists. And that's why Marjorie and I are here today, because we did not want the Republican voice to go unheard. And we did not want today's historical narrative to be hijacked and captured by those who are the true.
Like, what is something like, what would the Young Turks per se, like, what would they say to this, like, footage, this evidence that they're showing and these questions? They may disagree with what they wanted to do in terms of election integrity and constitutionality. Maybe they would disagree with that. But if you're just looking at specifically two people that were instrumental in organizing and pushing people in a direction, encouraging people to go into the Capitol, what would they say to that? What would they say about that? They would be interested in it if they were honest actors, and they're not. And it's obvious how illegitimate it is now.
Insurrectionists. Congresswoman Green.
Thank you very much. And I think that's an incredible point that Congressman Gates just made. It's very
Crush me with your thighs, please. Anna on a top. Xenia on a top.
important for the Republican voice to go to be heard today, because it's the Republican voice and the Republican voter and the Trump supporter that has been smeared constantly over this past year. I want you all to know that on January 6th, I was very upset with what happened that day. And it was because it completely interrupted the work that we had worked very hard on all throughout Christmas, preparing for January 6th to object on behalf of Americans that felt their votes had been stolen. And I think it's important.
Brissinger says she's beautiful. She could get it. She could get it. Travis says this is an obvious double false flag is what they'd say. I think you're right, honestly. Brissinger is not because of beauty, but because of justice. Well, you know, integrity. They got integrity. I'll give them that. And it's obvious, like, you know, because both of them in the media, they tried to smear them with like sex scandals. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like cheating on her husband with a personal trainer, and Matt Gaetz with underage girls, trafficking girls across state lines and stuff like that. And all of it, as far as I understand, and I could be wrong, I think most of that was completely dissipated because people did not fucking buy into it, I guess, and the courts didn't find anything interesting. I'm not sure if the Matt Gaetz thing has been completely resolved. You know, because Matt Gaetz, he looks like a fuckboy. He looks like he is easily compromised, for lack of a better way to put it. But, you know, Brissinger says he was a double cross.
To recognize that our own Federal Election Commission.
I'll be honest, I have no idea. I have no real opinion on it in writ large, but I want to know. And I think it's curious that people don't have any interest in knowing, especially if there's evidence to the contrary. An honest person would at least be curious. They'd at least want to know. If you're worried about democracy and the integrity of the country, wouldn't you want to know down to the fucking last detail?
An error rate by law that is 0.0008%. And it's important to point out that elections are very serious and they're taken that way by all Americans. Don't forget that Bernie Sanders felt that his election was stolen by Hillary Clinton. Don't forget that Hillary Clinton forgot that her election was stolen. And I'll tell you, being from Georgia, Stacey Abrams still thinks she won in 2018, and she's running again. But here's some things that we do need to discuss. You know, I'm one of those people, and I'm not shy to tell you, I don't trust our government. And that's another reason why I ran for Congress, is because I felt like it's our government that is screwing everything up for the American people. But after what we've seen on January 6th and the videos that Congressman Gaetz just walked through, I can tell you right now, I don't trust our government even more. When I went through the DC jail, I'll tell you who I did not see. I did not see Ray Epps. I didn't see him in there wasting away for months on end, being denied his due process rights, being denied the ability to see his family, to get medical treatment, to get a haircut and shave. I didn't see him in there. You know who else I didn't see? I didn't see a man named John Sullivan, a man that has participated in Antifa, BLM riots and the whole entire movement, but then all of a sudden decided to be a Trump supporter on January 6th. The same guy that was in the Capitol and filmed Ashley Babbitt's murder and then sold his videos to media outlets. He's not in the DC jail under Deputy Warden Kathleen Landerkin. So I think we have a lot of questions to ask, and the people that should be answering the questions is our FBI and our Department of Justice. I want to point some things out to you all. With the U.S.
You know, not to talk shit and not to be like overly conspiratorial, but Marjorie Taylor Greene was on Timcast the day before he got swatted. Maybe worth considering.
Capitol riot, there is over 725 arrests that I know of, and only one case has been
Because
dropped.
people talk shit about Tim Pool being like the milquetoast fence sitter and everything, and a lot of times I agree. Like, I'm not a huge Tim Pool fan, but he will do things like that. He does have some sense of integrity, and he does use his platform in interesting ways sometimes. You know?
For BLM Antifa riots, there were over 16,240 arrests, and over 90% of those cases have been dropped. What's the difference there, everyone? I'll tell you. For the BLM Antifa riots and violence, the victims were the American people and communities and cities all across our country. But on January 6th, you know who the victim was? It was the Capitol and the members of Congress inside. My question is this.
Yeah, so they decided to take it seriously. It came to their front door, so suddenly it was a moral imperative that something be done about it.
Why is this Congress obsessed with itself and cares nothing about the American people? This is a two-tiered justice system that should never exist in our country, and I'm fed up with it, and so are Americans all over the country. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the FBI. They have quite a history of doing things. Remember, in Governor Whitmer's kidnapping plot, I can tell you that we know there were 12 FBI informants involved in that group, and we don't know how many federal agents were involved. Don't forget about the Bundy Ranch affair, where there were 15 FBI informants involved, and we don't know how many actual agents. But we can go back further. Another example would be in 1968 at the Democratic National Convention, where there were 10,000 protesters, and 1 out of 6 were federal undercover agents. You do the math, and that's approximately 1,600 federal agents at this protest in 1968 at the Democratic National Convention. Here at the Capitol security breach, we don't know how many federal informants, FBI agents of people in other agencies. We don't know those numbers because we have a January 6th committee that is unwilling and refusing to ask those serious questions. Now, what is our FBI doing? And why is the Department of Justice going along with it? And I think the question that really should be asked is an informant also involved in making the plans for these types of things and violence and a security breach at the Capitol? Are they just an informant sitting quietly in meetings and listening to plans? Or are they actually taking part in planning these things? I think we can see, and it's very obvious with the videos.
It's problem, reaction, solution. Create a problem, encourage a reaction, provide the solution. Brissinger says, bro, they have a shadow country. Lots of moles running around. Yeah, well, especially because anytime anything like this happens, almost to any degree, it always comes out that there's federal involvement. Always.
That we have just seen today, that Ray Epps definitely organized and told people to go in and incited people to do the breach of the Capitol, but yet he has not been charged. So there's a lot to be answered for. Now, we have Christopher Wray of the FBI and Merrick Garland of the Department of Justice, who we see are currently going after everyone involved, and they seem to think that this is the biggest investigation that they've ever needed to undertake in United States history. Well, you know what I think needs to be the biggest investigation that in United States history is what is going on at the FBI and what is happening in the Department of Justice. And the American people deserve those answers because it's the American people and the taxpayers that pay for all of it. Now, I don't want to have anything to do with a government that is going to be so obsessed with overturning regime change in our own country when it should be serving the American people, protecting their constitutional rights and individual freedoms. Now, that's not something that should divide people by political parties. I think that's something that should bring people together. So I think that going forward with the January 6th committee, when Republicans take back the House, as we all are upset about any type of violence and riots in this country, we should have a January 6th committee that looks for the truth instead of protecting its own and working on its own political goals. And when we talk about elections in our country, we need to make sure that they're safe and no one's vote gets stolen, and that ID is shown to vote, and that they don't use riots to achieve some sort of legislation. Because if Democrats cared about riots, they would have cared about the Antifa BLM riots all over the country in 2020. They would have worked hard and demanded that they stopped, but instead they promoted them. And even Ilhan Omar, a member of Congress, and our sitting Vice President Kamala Harris posted bail bond links bailing out rioters so they could go back and do it again on the streets. Now, while Republicans are being attacked and the Democrats are attacking people and calling in with subpoenas, subpoenaing their phone records and banking records, I think it's very important to point out you haven't seen Republicans bailing out rioters, as very much matter-of-factly and sadly so. Hardly any Republicans have paid attention to the people that are being held months on end with no one caring about them, their families being left to defend themselves and pay for attorney bills, and they're wasting away in jail. I think due process is extremely important. I think that our pretrial rights are important for every single person that is charged with crimes in our country.
And this is what I was saying. Like, if you really believed in the system, the integrity of the system, you would be fighting for their rights for due process. And it is a fucking pox. It is a shame that our elected officials have no care. And actually, it's not even our elected officials only. It's the pundit class. It's everybody. There's this dude who's on Twitter, Stephen L. Miller. And he has like a podcast on Patreon that I had in the past been subscribed to because he's like a media watchdog. He calls out a lot of media bullshit. But he's just another one of these fucking grifting, edgelord, fucking Gen X assholes who's like wants to be fucking considered cool by the other side. And he's just like, throw him in a dungeon, throw him away forever. I don't care. While also talking about like how important the Constitution is and your inalienable rights and all that shit. Well, it's like, put your money where your mouth is, dude. It would actually take bravery. It would actually take some kind of integrity to stick up for that shit. It takes integrity to say the unpopular thing. And nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. The January 6th commission, come on, dude. It's like the Russian collusion stuff. It's pageantry. It's fake. Liz Cheney. Give me a fucking break. Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney out there for a moment of silence for January 6th. Are you fucking kidding me? We're going to rehab Dick Cheney. Brissinger says, fucking dumbass Republicans, bro. Sorry, but it's true. It's the population. Fucking egomaniacs. There's so little courage anywhere. No, because if anything actually would cost you something, if you actually had to like stand up for something, have integrity, and ain't nobody going to do it. Most people don't. It's left to people like this, which unfortunately, you know, I respect and appreciate them doing this. I really do. But they're a little squirrely in other ways, you know. They're definitely compromised people in some respect, but I mean, I guess so aren't we all? But shit, man. Singer says it really helps you understand actually how valuable that is. That's right. And why it's worth fighting for, why it's worth kind of ringing those fucking bells, man. Ring those goddamn bells.
And I think it is imperative, and it is your responsibility as members of the media to call attention to this, because it should never happen to anyone, and I don't care what their politics
And
are.
she's dead fucking right. It is the responsibility of the media to call attention to this shit, to talk about these things. That's what their job is, dude.
So with that, we'll take a few questions.
Can I ask you, did you actually listen, Congresswoman, to the President's speech this morning? And do you acknowledge at a minimum that it's time for reflection, or do you repudiate and reject every single thing that the President said?
I think clearly we are reflecting. This is exactly what we're doing today. We are clearly.
Hey, we just gave this press conference. Let me ask you a question that has nothing to do with it. Let's go back to optics. Let's go back to, like, do you support the president? Do you believe what he said? Do you agree with him? Get fucked.
Reflecting. As a matter of fact, this is all we reflect on. And again, I'll go back to why don't we reflect on the riots that the American people endured?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. In front of you was first. Go ahead.
So tonight there's a vigil at the DC jail on behalf of the writers who are jailed. Do either of you plan to go? And if not, why not?
Our plan is to be here with you. Our plan earlier today was to travel out to the original breach site and the places where some of these videos were captured, but we do not have plans this evening for that. Yes, ma'am.
You said that the victims here at the January 6th attack was lawmakers, and that's why there's so much focus on this attack. But what about the 140 police officers that were injured? Can you tell me a little bit about your reactions when you saw the footage of the police officers being assaulted, and if you have any words for them today, a year after?
I'll say the same
Yeah, are
thing.
their rights being molested?
I've said all year long. I'll say the same thing I said starting that day. It was appalling. And I want to know why the National Guard was not outside the Capitol. I am furious at that.
I'd like to know why they just didn't call for backup. You know, there's that footage of that guy yelling at the Capitol police officer, be like, look what's happening. Fucking call somebody. Prissinger says, how about that Latin accent? Latinx. Already been there, done that. Get with the program.
And I want you to know that members of Congress and definitely the Speaker of the House, she knew that there was going to be violence that day. President Trump requested the National Guard. So did others. They knew things were going to happen, but for some reason they thought that optics would look bad if they had the National Guard there. Yes, as a freshman member of Congress, only a few days on the job, yeah, I'm angry the National Guard wasn't out there and they left the Capitol Police as sitting ducks to have to deal with all of this.
And
completely wrong.
I would add to that. What if those Capitol Police officers are victims of people like Ray Epps?
Absolutely.
What if they're victims of an orchestrated effort?
Excellent pivot. Excellent pivot, my dude.
By the FBI or other federal law enforcement to increase the criminal acuity of that day. So I would suggest that every officer that was harmed that day would likely be served well by answering these questions that Attorney General Garland and Director Wray refused to answer.
Senator Ted Cruz said yesterday that January 6th was a terrorist attack. Do you agree with him?
Oh, there it is. Senator Ted Cruz yesterday said January 6th was a terrorist attack. There it is. There it is, because that's that fucking soundbite, and they get to latch onto it, and they get to disingenuously present it to people. And Ted Cruz acts like he doesn't understand that. Gaming Dragon says, if you wanted proof that we live in a tyrannical empire, oh, we live in something, man. And Brissinger said, oh, that's a good point.
Absolutely not. I think Senator Cruz is smart enough to know, since he's an attorney, that no one's been charged with terrorism, just like no one has been charged with insurrection. I think that was very irresponsible of him to call them terrorists, and I completely disagree.
And the establishment will never love you, Ted. You know, you can bend over at bended knee for them, but they're just not going to love you. I think that was maybe an effort by the good senator, who we agree with on many things, to recast himself in the eyes of some of the folks in your profession. But
bingo, bango, political expediency. The fucking mind fuck those feds had to deal with now. How about all the Fed suicides after this? Is that true? I didn't know that.
we didn't find it particularly factual or sincere. John?
What I heard Senator Cruz say was that he said the Democratic Party wants all Republicans to be seen as terrorists. That's what I heard when I spoke to him. But I wanted to ask you about the Attorney General. He had a press conference in which said The Justice Department remains committed to holding all January 6 perpetrators at any level accountable under law, whether they were present that day or otherwise criminally responsible for the assault on our democracy. We will follow the facts.
Yeah, so they're talking about pundits as well. They're talking about people like Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, maybe even Tim Pool himself. Maybe the old beanie.
They leave. What do you make of that press conference? The Attorney General speaking out the day before January 6th.
It was very frustrating for me as a member of the Judiciary Committee because the Attorney General wouldn't answer Congressman Thomas Massey's direct question about where the facts and the law led. We're worried that this might not be a crime so much as it is a cover-up in some circumstances as it relates to some people. And it is challenging constitutionally to deal with the fact that you may have had Department of Justice and FBI assets and informants really increasing the degree of criminality on this day. And who's supposed to look into them? Well, the Congress is. And there was likely a time, John, when I believed that the Republicans should disband this January 6th committee the moment we take power after the 2022 elections. But increasingly, I'm of the view that we have to convert it to a proper purpose to follow the facts and the law when the Department of Justice has not been forthcoming when members of Congress have asked questions under oath.
Mr. Gates, do you think there would have been no riot if there hadn't been federal officers?
Persinger says, how will people ever do what you say when you do shit like this? Do you really want to govern by fear? I think, yeah, I think they do. I don't think they really give much of a fuck about what people want. And it's all about coercion. It's all about coercion.
How involved in the crowd?
That is the operative question. And if you note, I would point you to, hold on. I would point to the video that we just showed. I would say take these videos and present them to the skeptics and show them Ray Epps at the moment of breach. There was no breach prior to the video that I showed you, that initial video. And so at the moment of breach, you have Epps instigating, pushing, directing, describing exactly what should happen. I think that the question you asked is the operative question. And unfortunately, the January 6th committee seems to be focused on everything else.
You're saying the federal government caused the riot at the
I do not believe that there would have been the same level of criminal acuity on January 6th of last year.
And this is meant to paint them as crazier. You mean you think the federal government was involved in this? You think that this was their operation? Fuck you, buddy. Travis says, as the expression goes, let them hate as long as they fear. Agreed.
Last year, but for the involvement of the federal government. I don't think there would have been a kidnapping plot of Governor Whitmer without the involvement of the federal government. And increasingly, we are starting to see pattern recognition, where the federal government inserts themselves into these organizations through assets, informants, at times possibly agents, and then those people become not spectators or witnesses to those events, but they become the very animators of those events. That seems to be precisely the evidence that I just showed you regarding Ray Epps.
And this goes also for a lot of what we've seen with like domestic terrorism, shooters, people that are inspired by message boards like 4chan and stuff like that, these anon boards, these image boards. Oh, you know they're in there. You know they're in there. They're probably encouraging some things. You know what I'm saying? Brissinger says, I say live without fear and you'll actually have life. I would agree. Gaming Dragon says, you think the Gestapo are behind all this?
I'm sorry. Let's let everybody get one before we go back. Yes.
Just to zoom out on Arthur's question, your theory of the case is that Donald Trump actually won the election. The federal government organized a breach of the Capitol to disrupt the results being challenged on January 6th.
I think you've imputed.
Look, yeah, he's trying to frame it as like, you think Donald Trump won, and the shadow government, the government was trying to stop you from pleading your case that he won. What they're actually saying is they may feel like that personally, but what they were asking for was an investigation to look into it, etc. Brissinger says Mueller might have survived, but he isn't involved anymore. Okay, and he says, "I see you, Gaming Dragon."
a motive that I think we still have to investigate. Remember, what Congresswoman Green and I are calling for is for Republicans to take power and utilize the January 6th committee to answer those questions as to motive. What I find very circumspect is in the face of this direct captured evidence, and when presented with direct questions under oath, we get obfuscation from the Attorney General and the FBI Director. That is very suspicious to us. We're not ready to try and convict anyone, but these are the operative questions, not whether or not there were coup plotters who wanted to formulate an argument for the floor of the House.
You're a lawyer. That's your working theory of the case. That, as you said, you had these plans to offer up objections, and they all got disrupted because the federal government sent in.
There could be an alternate motive. The motive of the federal government may not have been to disrupt that debate, but to ensnare, target, and trash a political movement. We saw during the civil rights era, the Department of Justice, the FBI insert themselves into the people around.
This is the, like, people have such short memories, and especially now that we've turned into a nation, like in the past, since Trump took office, basically like, oh, you have to bootlick all of these agencies, where it was completely normal and completely average to not trust them. That's been the talking points for 40 fucking years because of things that Matt Gaetz is bringing up right now. Because of those things. It's fucking, and they're just like, oh, how could you impugn the honor? You have like James Comey writing a book. They fucking make a mini series about him with honor, with integrity. Gaming Dragon says, I love how they draw these straight lines to election fraud and other things that have no relation. Yeah, that's what they do. He says, do you though? Can you see me? Trami says, that Tor, the darknet, is still a thing is because it's useful for the government. They can hide their own traffic in the stream of shady civilian shit. Yes, the dark web and anonymous posting boards are a hotbed for this shit. It's not just for shit posters anymore. It's not 2008.
Rights leaders that they were concerned about, that they thought were agitators, that they thought were communists. And then we saw those actions of some of those federal assets increase suspicion and basis for investigation. During the Russia hoax, we saw, the FBI not as a victim of lying Russians, but actually seeding those lies to justify their own action. And you see that through the spoken indictments of Durham. So this wasn't a one-off on January 6th. As Congresswoman Green laid out, and as I've just laid out, we believe there's a pattern and practice where assets, agents, and informants of the federal government are central to the criminal activity, and but for their involvement, that activity would have been at a minimum at a lower acuity. Yeah, yes. Sure.
What do you make of the fact that so few fellow Republicans are in DC today?
I can't answer for them. And I think it's
Because
important.
they're political operators and it's they're spineless. That's why fellow Republicans are ignoring all this or ignoring the basic civil liberties and rights of the people in prison for January 6th. I mean, come on. Trami says, because let's be real, free speech is never going to keep a government from shutting down hotbeds of opinion. No. All of these things are, in a lot of ways are illusory. And if you don't fight for them, they will be gone. You will not have access to them.
To let them answer that question themselves. Unfortunately, Republicans don't seem to want to go into the truth like Congressman Gaetz and I are. We will not stand here and be lied about, and that's what's happening. We're watching it all over the news today, and we've seen it for the past year. I'm not one that's going to just sit there and take and duck and hide under cover when the mainstream media and the Democrat Party wants to label people and tell lies about us. We're here because we want to get out in front and say we think there's real questions that do need to be asked. Another thing is I'll never answer.
Like some of the shit they brought up in the beginning with the video footage, right? Yeah, those are questions that need fucking answers, okay? Just like so many other things. But yes, especially if you have a literal committee or commission that is tasked with looking into it. Persinger says, yeah, Rami, I'm with you. This shit is real. If you think that everything we're writing, even in this chat, isn't monitored and recorded, you're more naive than Ted Cruz. They really take everyone but themselves as fools. Well, that's their hubris. It's honestly, it's their greatest strength and greatest weakness, especially in the modern era, because it's become so obvious. It just is what it is. Everybody can see it. And you have to be a real fucked in the head partisan person not to at least pay attention, not to at least be like, that's curious.
For someone else's motive and what they did on January 6th, because I have no idea. The only thing that we cared about and we're working on, again, was looking into election fraud. And we were objecting and had worked very hard on the state of Michigan on behalf of those people that had signed their names at risk of perjuring themselves over what they had said they'd seen election fraud. I think that's extremely important.
And then you have that dipshit, what's his name? Former mayor of New York, Giuliani, who I think either he glows or he's compromised. That guy fucked up a lot of shit. He really affected the integrity and the credibility of a lot of stuff that was going on. Him and those couple lawyers. The Kraken. They really fucked up some shit. Like for like legitimate, honest conversation. Worth thinking about.
As far as anyone's motive, and we're not going to defend people that broke laws on January 6th. I certainly don't want to do that. I don't like any riots, and I don't care what they're for. What I want to know is, was our government involved, and why? Why on earth would they do that? And if so, there's something that needs to be done about it.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Now that so many audits and other checks have been done, do you acknowledge that Joe Biden won the election and is the legitimate president?
You want to know something? I've introduced 4 different sets of articles of impeachment. I think it's very clear that I think Joe Biden is the president. I mean, if I'm trying to impeach him, I think it's clear that I think he's the president. Yes, he was on January 6th, his electoral college votes.
Gaming Dragon says, you're saying Rudy Giuliani brought too much attention to it in a bad light. Well, I mean, yeah, in a bad light, but it was just completely like, what's the word I'm looking for? He just fumbled at every turn. He looked like an ass constantly. Even the Hunter Biden laptop, right? That's I think it's been vetted to be a real thing at the very least, but the way in which it was acquired seems a little suspect. Maybe he's not an honest actor. Maybe it's worth thinking about. Brissinger says that was some great smoke screening. She's not a senator for nothing.
Were confirmed, and he was sworn in later on in January. I think that's a silly question to ask.
Yeah.
What do you think of President Biden's new direct tone today in his speech, putting blame directly on Mr. Trump for January 6th?
Well, he didn't even say his name. When I blame people, I typically use their name, so I'd probably reject the premise of the question.
Following on from that metaphor that he used, that Donald Trump and his supporters, by implication, were holding a dagger to the throat of American democracy. What was your reaction to that?
Ludicrous. We are here to vindicate our democracy, to ensure that people in the national security apparatus don't delegitimize, target, abuse, and torture an entire political movement of tens of millions of Americans. I also don't think it was a particularly new tone. It sort of seemed like the normal speech in decline for a man in decline. Yes, ma'am.
On Ted Cruz's comments, I'm seeing some pushback to calling January 6th a terrorist attack, just an attack by itself. From much of what I consider the base of the right. Are you worried that there are people who don't understand the severity of what happened as far as the violence on that day?
We're worried there are a lot of folks who don't understand the severity of what happened, particularly if it was so severe that it was being animated and encouraged by assets of the federal government. That would be a far greater scandal than anything that the Democrats have talked about or even that other Republicans have talked about. Congresswoman Green and I have acknowledged from the very beginning of this day to our time out at the breach site that we oppose violence, that this was a violent day, that it was not a good day. It is not a day we are celebrating, and we condemn political violence in all of its forms, full stop.
So what is your message to the people that say, well, January 6th, people just walked into the Capitol and took a look around?
I say we need to release the over 14,000 hours of videotape that the American taxpayers pay for. You know who pays for this building? The American taxpayers. They pay for those video surveillance cameras and they own the footage. If there's nothing to hide, release it. We have constantly called for it to be released. We should release all of that video and then America can judge for themselves. But another thing is, I think we need to remember the violent riots and the over 16,000 charges for the Antifa and BLM riots. Again, why don't riots against American citizens matter? But yet the riot on January 6th is the only thing that just reigns the discussion. Here's something for you all. What if the FBI was involved? What if Ray Epps and what he was doing and this man that was on the scaffolding and John Sullivan and other bad actors like them, what if that caused a member of the press to get killed? What would you all be saying about that? So what kind of responsibility would you be placing on the FBI or any kind of other federal agency if a member of the press had been killed that day because of violence that they had caused to action? I mean, I think this is a serious question. You all work here every single day, just like we do. You walk these halls. This is the place where you gather information and do your job. So your safety was also at risk that day too. And if our federal government was involved in doing so, I think that's something that you should be very upset about.
This is the thing, it's just like, even with because people like to hand wave it like TYT. A lot of mainstream outlets talk about, QAnon and stuff, which was clearly some sort of psyop. Or maybe it was a game that got out of hand. It seems like a psyop to me. Not to be too conspiratorial. But it's because it's used to delegitimize any questions. Because people like this in the press are like, well, these are just nuts. These are just kooks, just crazy people. Some of them definitely were. But what motivated it? What motivated the kookiness? What drew it out of people? Brissinger says, yeah, and any Fed can bring it up in an instant. This is something I think many don't truly understand or just starting to. It's definitely taken me a while to realize.
Do you believe that the man who just got 5 years for throwing a fire extinguisher at a police officer was an undercover federal agent?
I'm sorry.
We're not familiar with that particular case.
Well, it's one of the cases that's just been settled. 5 years for throwing the fire extinguisher.
For throwing a fire extinguisher?
We're not here to litigate any particular case.
Yes.
We're no one's lawyer. We're no one's advocate.
Brissinger says it is a psyop. There's so much of that going on. If you deny it, you're a Fed. You're glowing.
We're here to speak to the conditions that existed on that day, to the civil rights of people who have been deprived access to medical care, religious services, but we're not going to get into the facts of any one particular defendant. We have brought video evidence to display to you in the world, and we think that those are the specific cases that would probably warrant the most thorough review.
Yes.
Well, right.
Yes,
that's what I'm showing you, but you're here talking about a case that
I'm
that we weren't
unfamiliar
involved
with
in
it.
adjudicating.
Yes.
If Republicans take back the House, what kind of investigations might you launch involving this or any other sort of related issues?
Well, we're going to encourage Republican leadership to utilize the January 6th committee correctly to answer the questions regarding potential federal involvement. That goes to the top.
Yeah, because that's going to do a lot of good, Matt. That's going to do a lot of good. They're just as fucking shady and shitty as anybody else. It'll just be shitty in a different direction, most likely.
Top of the list. I am also heartened that Congressman Jim Jordan has publicly committed to starting an oversight and investigation subcommittee of the House Judiciary Committee, and I believe that that could foster some very productive work regarding what's happening at the FBI and DOJ and perhaps other federal entities that were involved on that day. Yes, sir.
You briefly mentioned Stuart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers. What is your current opinion of the Oath Keepers and their role in the breach?
I think it's something that warrants a good deal of review, but it's very suspicious to us that Stuart Rhodes is sort of like the Forrest Gump of a lot of these operations. He appears in strange circumstances, is involved in organizing activity, and then seems to always escape any specific charge or accountability. And it beckons the question whether or not Stuart Rhodes is in fact a federal asset or informant. And we would like a direct answer to that question. I mean, Ray Epps and Stuart Rhodes were part of the same organization. The Epps video is very compelling, and we think the Rhodes case is also warranting a further inquiry. Yes,
Even
sir.
if they weren't like federal informants or federally involved. Yeah, hold on, let me see there. Sorry, buddy. Trying to ask if there's captions. Yes, I think there are. There might be a little bit behind. I'm sorry if the volume is a little fucked, especially when they're asking questions because they're not in front of microphones and stuff. But even if like Stuart Rhodes or the Oath Keepers, they're not like a federal thing, wouldn't you still want to know? Wouldn't you still want to know if they were somehow, if they were an organizing entity or a force for that day? Say the Oath Keepers were like, you know, working in that capacity, a more formal capacity. Wouldn't you want to know?
Brian?
As we sit here right now, what is the next step for the January 6th detainees? What does the future look like for those guys?
Well, again, I encourage everyone to go to green.house.gov. Green has an E on the end. That is where you can read the DC jail report that we worked very hard to get the information out on what's happening and how these people's due process rights are being violated. But it's also about the entire DC jail. The DC jail has quite a history of being just a terrible place, treating prisoners badly. Well before January 6th, pretrial detainees or defendants are being held there. Going forward, no one is defending these people. They are languishing in jail. They're awaiting their trials. Many of their trials are much later on. So unfortunately,
Trami says chances are that even if they are, there's nothing that actually ties them to anything official. No, most likely not. If they're somehow federally involved or if there's federal feds in there. But even if there weren't, wouldn't you? Why don't they look into them? Why don't they? Why isn't that a big deal? If Ray Epps was part of the fucking Oath Keepers, don't you think they would look into that organization? They might just be nutters that have been groomed anonymously. That's also a possibility. But the fact that they ignore them entirely is the point. Because they could be that. That is just as likely a possibility as anything else, I suppose. You know what I mean?
unfortunately, it's a very sad case until more attention is being drawn to it, and until more people care to step in and help. And I really, honestly hope they do.
What do you say to those who say that these are just further conspiracy theories about the FBI being involved, that you've been spreading about the election in order to fundraise money, because you both have.
Well, I mean,
bootlick.
I'm familiar
You mean
with
like
being,
Russian collusion?
Yeah, I'm familiar with being called a conspiracy theorist because when I got here in 2017 and in 2018, when I was making the claim, oftentimes alone, that it wasn't Trump colluding with Russia, it was in fact the Clinton apparatus and the DNC that was colluding with Russians to tell lies about Trump. Oh, everybody said I was a big conspiracy theorist then, but now we're starting to see through the Durham indictments that is precisely what happened. So kind of the arc of the DC narrative is first y'all call me a conspiracy theorist, and then months and years later, these things turn out to be true. Because I expected that criticism, we brought evidence.
Well, that's the thing. Even if you thought Matt Gaetz was crazy, the incurious nature of the media to look into anything is the problem. Because if you wanted to prove that he was crazy, it's not like a thing you just hand wave and be like, oh, look at this fucking nut. Look at this nut. Look how goofy he is. Look at the goofy things he's saying. Let's bring on John Brennan. Let's bring on former heads of the CIA and stuff to come and talk about this and whether this is credible or not. No. You think you would actually do some fucking work, some actual journalism, and go look into it. If he's fucking crazy, find out if he's crazy. Find out if he's full of shit. That should be the goal. It's fucking obnoxious. Those people stutter because English isn't their primary form of communication. Gaming Dragon says, we've seen this. We've seen with Kyle that feds can withdraw and release evidence whenever they want. Exactly. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial. The feds somehow had their fucking fingers in it. Wild shit. Brissinger says, seriously, you're watching them do interpretation in real time to ask questions.
We brought video, and I would say send it to the critics. Send it to all the folks who produce the mainstream media primetime shows. You know, they want to run a whole lot of video from January 6th, But I'm willing to bet you won't see these videos run on prime time, and they should be, because it shows the American people that there was a lot more going on, and that the game you're watching is not the game being played. We'll do one more question, and then
He had his hand up.
okay, sure.
I have a question about President Trump. So you all are making the case here that, in your words, this was a Fed insurrection, some sort of federally instigated event. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, that is not the case that President Trump himself makes about this. He, sees this as an outpouring of support from his followers and says that the real insurrection was on November 3rd. I haven't seen him make the argument that this was some sort of federally instigated thing.
We're not only
because that's what they suggested. Like, well, you're just a Trump lapdog. It's another framing device that they have. Oh, you're just crazy Trump lapdogs. These people could be fucking nuts. They could be fucking nuts. But it's incumbent upon the members of the media to do more than just ask them questions at press conferences. It's obnoxious. Brissinger says, and somehow it took a year to get this information out. Actually, this information's been out for more than a year. Or not for more than a year, but probably for at least 9 months. The Ray Epps thing has been around for a while. The Revolver article about Stuart Rhodes has been out for 6 or 7 months.
Limited to the arguments that former President Trump makes. We're entitled to make our own
arguments, yes.
Why do they believe you and not former President Trump?
Believe the evidence.
I don't think it's one or the other. I think that's the wrong premise to take here. We were both really looking forward to President Trump's press conference tonight. Unfortunately, I think he got some bad advice in canceling it. We wish that he had done that so that people could have asked him these questions. But just like Congressman Gates just said, as members of Congress and representatives, we are going to be asking our own questions, and we don't have to fall in line behind anyone in the types of questions we're asking.
Yeah. We don't talk about our conversations with the president with you guys in any circumstance.
Yep.
You right?
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you. Well, everybody, I think that's the stream. About 4 hours. I got to get up early in the morning, but thanks everybody for hanging out. I appreciate it. Tarami, Brissinger, Gaming Dragon, Prophet, Big Paul, even you, Luma. Appreciate you coming around. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys I guess Monday night. If you wanna see more shenanigans, Monday night on D Live. The link is in the description if you want to go follow me over there. That's a D Live show. We're going to have some fun. We're going to be talking about some antinatalists. And I'll leave you with this little funny video I made. Have a good night, everybody.
Yes, younger son, definitely. Young boys, I do like fucking college boys.
On a warrant, regardless of the circumstances, and I'd appreciate it if you would leave.
I got my tight little asshole.